12 terrifyingly breathtaking archaeological discoveries that shocked the world. Hello, welcome to the latest video on the Ancient History channel. Dear friends, if you think the world has already been fully explored, hold on. Don't jump to conclusions just yet. The deeper we dig into the earth, the more science reveals astonishing and breathtaking mysteries. Thanks to modern technology, archaeologists are constantly uncovering secrets humanity has never heard of, leaving everyone who witnesses them wide-eyed with amazement. As you already know, history is never gentle. It hides stories that are both overwhelming and spine-chilling, enough to give both scientists and viewers like us goosebumps. From the strange rituals of ancient Egyptians to mummies so well preserved they look like they were laid to rest just yesterday, to mysterious tombs guarded so rigorously for reasons unknown. All of these are full of countless questions. And today, on this journey of discovery, I'll be taking you with me as we peel back each layer of these secrets to see what history has truly been hiding from us. Are you ready? If so, let's begin with our first mysterious and fascinating discovery right now. 5,000-year-old skeletons of two gay men force history to be rewritten. Until now, many people have believed that homosexuality is a modern phenomenon, linked to contemporary society, open culture, and the explosion of information. But when we look back into the past, history surprisingly answers a question that shocks anyone who hears it. Could same-sex love have existed under the layers of ancient time? It wasn't until 2011 that archaeologists in the Czech Republic boldly confirmed that such relationships did exist in antiquity, and the evidence is clearer than previously imagined. However, the story doesn't start there. In 1964, Egyptian scientists discovered a peculiar tomb dating back approximately 2,400 years BCE. The tomb belonged to two men, Neankhkhnum and Khnumhotep, royal manicurists in ancient Egypt. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary officials, but the way they were buried stunned archaeologists. The two men were laid to rest together, side by side, like a married couple, rather than as brothers or colleagues. Initially, experts hypothesized that they might have been twin brothers, as shared burials among siblings were not uncommon. But the more they examined and analyzed, every image, symbol, and motif on the tomb walls told a very different story. The carvings depict the two men standing close together, hand in hand, gazing at each other in a manner similar to depictions of married couples in ancient Egyptian art, not like relatives. What's even stranger is that Neankhkhnum actually had a wife, whose image once appeared in the tomb. For reasons unknown, some images of the wife were erased, and in positions where her depiction should have been, Khnumhotep's image was substituted instead. Even more striking, when archaeologists deciphered their names, they discovered something extraordinary. Their names were inscribed side by side, meaning together in life and in death. This was not how Egyptians represented brothers or friends. This was language reserved for married couples. Notably, in ancient Egypt, only pharaohs and close royal associates were allowed to construct tombs of this type, suggesting that Neankhkhnum and very likely Khnumhotep held significant status, potentially directly connected to the royal court. Thus, their relationship may have been a secret deliberately concealed by those in power at the time. Delving deeper, experts note that terms like gay or homosexual were not defined until 1920. Before that, such relationships were considered rare or seldom recorded. This makes the discovery of a 5,000-year-old same-sex love story shatter the notion that homosexuality is merely a modern product. Modern science explains that sexual orientation, including heterosexuality, homosexuality, bisexuality, and sometimes asexuality, is a complex combination of innate and environmental factors. It is not a conscious choice, nor is it something abnormal, as many prejudices have claimed. The story of Neankhkhnum and Khnumhotep is a vivid testament to human diversity dating back millennia, transcending any modern stereotype. Yet the question remains, when did homosexuality first appear? Where did it originate, and why has it existed alongside human history? There is still no definitive answer. What do you think? Can love truly transcend time and social boundaries? Share your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss together. 9.8 feet tall, giant skeletons shrouded in legend. When people think of giants, many immediately imagine fairy tales or the storybooks of childhood. But did you know that in real life, amid the wild mountains of Georgia, scientists have reportedly found skeletons reaching up to 9.8 feet tall, dating back 24,000 to 25,000 years. This discovery in the Borzomsky Gorge instantly sparked fierce debate. Could this be the first clear evidence of a race of giants? The skeletons astonished archaeologists, who openly admitted that these remains do not resemble any modern human skeletons. Renowned archaeologist Abesalam Vecua of the Georgian Academy of Sciences emphasized that these artifacts are exceptionally significant. For a long time, scientists have hypothesized that, in the distant past, Earth may have been home to an extraordinarily tall race of humans. Until now, these ideas had been based only on scattered records and legends, without convincing evidence. But this time, the traces are right before our eyes. The femur bones of these skeletons are far longer and thicker than those of modern humans. Even more striking are the unusually large skulls, suggesting that their owners were not only gigantic, but also biologically unique. Vecua believes that these ancient people lived in an isolated area, apart from any known civilization, and that their isolation may have caused them to evolve differently from other humans. Interestingly, some ancient scientific texts occasionally mention a race of giants, though no document ever provided concrete confirmation. This makes the current discovery feel like a doorway into entirely new mysteries that humanity has yet to unravel. Further surveys of the area believed to be their settlement revealed remnants of burial pits eroded by time, along with small stone-paved pathways winding through the mountains. Across a wide expanse, soil and rock worn away by small streams have exposed fragments of bones, almost as if telling the lonely story of a lost civilization. Moreover, last year, German scientists announced another startling discovery: an entirely unknown ancient human species living in southern Siberia. These consecutive discoveries seem to piece together a larger picture of human history, suggesting that we have only scratched the surface of the truth. From the giant skeletons in Georgia to the mysterious people of Siberia, these findings have led scientists to believe they are approaching answers to questions once thought unanswerable. Where did humanity originate? Who were our true ancestors? And was Homo sapiens the only human branch to ever exist? Looking at these massive bones, one can't help but wonder, could there still be a hidden race beneath the earth, leaving behind faint traces as messages for future generations? What do you think? Did giants really exist, and what might have happened to these ancient people? Share your thoughts below. Perhaps your ideas will help others gain deeper insight into a race of humans once called giants. Isn't that amazing? 9,000-year-old ancient human fossils found in a Middle Stone Age cemetery on Corsica. In the heart of the Mediterranean, the peaceful island of Corsica might seem to offer nothing more than sea breezes, pine forests, and windswept cliffs. Yet beneath its ancient soil lies a massive secret, lying dormant for 9,000 years, waiting for modern humans to uncover it. Thanks to the collaboration of archaeologists from several French universities and a Danish specialist, that secret has finally been revealed with the discovery of an ancient cemetery, an excavation that has already changed our understanding of the Middle Stone Age on the island. Joseph Cesari, responsible for managing the archaeological site and historical artifacts, noted that this discovery is clear evidence that humans inhabited Corsica during the Middle Stone Age, rather than arriving later as some previous studies had suggested. Over several months of meticulous excavation, the team uncovered skeletons scattered within just a few square meters, including 4 to 5 adults, a teenager, and even an infant. All were found in the Capo Stefano area, a site of immense importance in European archaeology. You might think that alone would be enough to create a sensation, but it wasn't. After 7 years of quiet study, the archaeologists discovered another almost fully intact adult skeleton, carefully buried as if challenging humanity's patience. According to Cesari, the find was kept secret to prevent interference from tourists, especially in popular locations such as Filitosa. Archaeological sites like this can be irreparably damaged with just a few careless steps. To protect the intact skeleton, archaeologists painstakingly dismantled parts of the skull and limb bones using delicate tools such as tweezers, brushes, and even small wooden sticks. Each layer of soil was gently removed, and every bone fragment lifted as if preserving the memories of an entire vanished era. Yet the discovery goes beyond simply finding the remains. DNA analysis proved to be the golden key to understanding the lifestyle, diet, and origins of people who lived thousands of years before us. Patrice Courtauld, a paleontologist and CNRS researcher in Bordeaux, highlighted that it is extremely rare to find a cemetery from this period containing so many individuals. This makes Capo Stefano an invaluable information mine for archaeology. Dating of the first skeletal samples indicates they lived around 9,400 to 8,800 years ago, 7,400 to 6,800 BCE, though some specimens were affected by the high acidity of the granite soil. These findings allow scientists to better map the timeline of human habitation on Corsica and raise new questions. Who were these people? How did they live on an island surrounded by the sea? Did they organize themselves in groups, tribes, or families? And why were they buried together in such a small area? We may well be standing before a living archive of lives that existed 9 millennia ago, lives now told only through skeletal remains. What do you think this discovery might reveal? Could upcoming DNA analyses uncover secrets about prehistoric humans that we've never known? Honestly, I wouldn't dare guess, because the ancient world still holds far too many mysteries. Maya tomb, discovered directly beneath a hotel construction site. If archaeology is full of surprises, the latest discovery in Palenque is a perfect example. Imagine this. While preparing to build a luxury hotel in a heritage area, construction unexpectedly uncovers, just beneath the seemingly ordinary soil, an entire ancient Maya funerary space, mysterious, profound, and filled with untold stories. Creepy and fascinating at the same time, right? Palenque, a city recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since the 1980s, is famous for its pyramids and architectural marvels that have amazed the world. It was once the thriving center of the Maya civilization from around 226 BCE to 799 CE. Over thousands of years, the stone walls, ancient staircases, and grand temples have endured, a testament to the extraordinary creativity of ancient humans. However, alongside this prosperity, Palenque eventually fell into decline. By the 8th century CE, the population began to thin, and the city was eventually abandoned. When the Spanish arrived in 1520, they recorded only a small scattered population. Today, Palenque has become a major tourist destination, attracting visitors from all over the world. Because of the increasing number of visitors, the Tren Maya Hotel project recently began construction on the outskirts of the site, an area previously believed to contain no ancient structures. But, as often happens, the assumption "nothing's there" can be proven wrong. During excavation for the foundation, the construction team unexpectedly uncovered a stone-paved funerary chamber, sealed beneath solid limestone slabs at a depth of approximately 13 feet. Archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History, INAH, were immediately called to the scene. Once on site, they quickly realized this was no ordinary tomb. Inside, the skeleton was laid on its back with legs extended and the head oriented to the north, a burial practice indicating the individual's high status. Alongside the remains were ceramic vessels and beads, funerary items typically associated only with members of the Maya elite. Based on this, Diego Prieto Hernandez suggested that the individual buried here may have been an important figure living in a small settlement on the outskirts of ancient Palenque. However, at this stage, all of this remains a hypothesis. Accurate conclusions will require more time, detailed analysis, and clearer evidence. For now, the Maya tomb discovered beneath the hotel foundation remains shrouded in mystery. No one knows the true identity of the skeleton, their role in Maya society, or why they were buried in this specific location. Can you guess who they might have been? A 1,000-year-old miracle medicine revealed in a water-submerged tomb in China stuns archaeologists. When it comes to ancient tombs, most people immediately think of layers of rock as hard as steel, dark passageways, and unpredictable dangers. And indeed, no matter how experienced, experts cannot escape the risks of exploring sites that have been resting undisturbed for thousands of years. Decayed coffins, structural shifts, toxic gases, any of these hazards can appear without warning. But the story of a water-filled tomb excavated in Jiangxi, China in 2011 went far beyond imagination. That year, when archaeologists began digging in what seemed like an ordinary area, they had no idea they were about to make one of the most shocking discoveries since the 1970s. During earlier land reforms, many ancient tombs were disturbed, and numerous graves were accidentally excavated, effectively turning new pages in Chinese history. Yet it wasn't until 2011 that the name Marquis Haihun, Liu He, truly shook the archaeological community. Haihun, the grandnephew of Emperor Wu of Han, the 9th emperor of the Han Dynasty, is a historically unusual figure. Though he ascended the throne, he ruled for only 27 days before being deposed, leaving behind records of rebellion that enraged the populace. He died at the age of 33, and no one expected that his tomb, buried deep in Jiangxi, would have such a unique structure. This tomb is referred to as a water tomb because it had been submerged in sewage water for centuries. Terrifying as it sounds, that water effectively acted as a shield, protecting the tomb from grave robbers. As a result, the treasures inside remained astonishingly intact. When the archaeological team carefully removed layer by layer of soil and stone, they discovered countless valuable artifacts, including ancient seals, gold items, and many culturally significant relics. The most remarkable moment came when a cleaning staff member accidentally picked up an orange box. Its corroded bronze exterior immediately suggested it might contain the legendary miracle medicine mentioned in ancient texts. When the lid was opened, the team recoiled in shock. Inside were thousands of objects that looked like tiny golden insects, filthy enough to make even the most seasoned archaeologists shiver. Yet they didn't give up. After a few minutes of composure, they examined the contents more closely, and the result astonished everyone. What had been mistaken for tiny corpses turned out to be Cordyceps sinensis, the rare and highly prized eastern medicinal fungus. This miracle medicine was historically sought by Chinese emperors to strengthen health and prolong life. Even more incredible, these specimens had been submerged in dirty water for over 2,000 years, yet they remained perfectly preserved. How they survived for so long remains an unsolved mystery, despite repeated and painstaking analyses by experts. Today, this 1,000-year-old miracle medicine is carefully preserved in a museum, awaiting the day modern science can fully unlock its secrets. So if you ever have the chance to visit, take a moment to see for yourself what ancient people considered the ultimate treasure. A 700-year-old sword stuck in stone lies silent beneath the Verbas River. Beneath the cold waters of the Verbas River, some 36 feet below the surface, near the village of Rakovic in northern Bosnia and Herzegovina, archaeologists stumbled upon an incredibly strange discovery. A 14th-century sword embedded straight into a rock, lying undisturbed for nearly 700 years. It sounds like something out of a legend, but it is a fact confirmed by experts. From the moment it was lifted from the river, the sword instantly became one of the most sensational medieval discoveries in recent history. People have even dubbed it the Excalibur of Bosnia, because the image of a sword stuck in stone so closely resembles the legend of King Arthur. But unlike mythology, this sword carries genuine historical significance, and every rust mark tells a story that has been sleeping for centuries. Archaeologist Ivana Panzic, working at the Republic of Srpska Museum, explained that the sword was heavily corroded, requiring extremely careful handling. Even the smallest mistake could damage the already weakened metal structure. Experts also noted that this is the first sword ever found near the medieval town of Zvečaj, a former center of power for Bosnian kings. In the last 90 years, only one other sword from the same period has been discovered in the entire Balkan region, highlighting just how rare and valuable this find truly is. Analysis of the blade revealed that it dates from the late 13th to early 15th century, a turbulent period marked by wars, power struggles, and empires constantly redrawing boundaries. Even more fascinating, the sword was discovered very close to the ruins of a Zvečaj castle, which once housed the thrones of Bosnian kings before being destroyed in 1777. Yet the biggest question, one that captivates everyone, remains. Why is the sword stuck in the rock? Who placed it there, and how could it have remained undisturbed for centuries at the riverbed? So far, archaeologists have no definitive answer. Some hypothesize that it may have fallen from a destroyed bridge. Others believe it could be a remnant of a fierce battle that once took place nearby. There is also the possibility that it had a ritualistic purpose, a kind of symbolic mark of medieval power. The more researchers study it, the clearer it becomes that this sword is more than just an ancient piece of iron. It is like a key to the mysterious doors of Bosnian history, where legend intertwines with reality, and where every stone and every ripple of water holds stories yet untold. So what do you think? Is this sword the relic of an unknown warrior, part of a secret ritual, or a remnant of a larger story waiting to be revealed? Personally, I suspect it was part of some secret ritual. If you have a better theory, feel free to share it in the comments below. Giant handprints, engraved in the White Mountains. We can gain insight into how our distant ancestors lived through the marks they left on the rocks and caves we see today. The petroglyphs in the White Mountains stand as a powerful testament to the lives of Native American tribes who inhabited the area between 200 and 1,000 years ago. Beyond the hundreds of carvings in the region, there are also enormous handprints etched into the stone. The White Mountains petroglyph site is located in the Red Desert of Wyoming, a region once home to Native American tribes. These rock carvings and pictographs serve as windows into the past, providing data and information about the lives of those who created them. Among the carvings and handprints, we find the most tangible connections to the Great Basin Native Americans who lived here from roughly 200 to 1,000 years ago. These tribes included the Shoshone, Arapaho, and Ute. The petroglyphs reveal much about the beliefs and culture of people who lived here hundreds of years ago and even earlier. Some carvings depict bison hunts and elk, while others feature bighorn sheep and wild horses. In addition to animals, the rock faces are adorned with intriguing geometric shapes and small footprints, adding to the rich visual landscape. Although the meaning of many shapes and symbols has been lost over time, Native Americans still regard them as sacred. They feel a connection to nature and a sense of positivity when visiting these sites. According to a Native American elder, these symbols hold deep communal significance. They feel as if the rocks themselves are alive and connected to them. The most mysterious of all are the handprints deeply engraved in the hard sandstone, as if someone had somehow softened the rock and pressed their hands into it. Historians suggest that the Eastern Shoshone created the handprints between 1000 and 1800 CE. Over time, thousands of people have performed similar hand motions on the sandstone, creating the effect of deeply imprinted handprints. Local stories also recount that Native American women often visited the White Mountains during childbirth. As labor contractions began, they would press their hands against the rock, and over time, these actions formed the deep handprints seen today. The petroglyphs were carved from sandstone, a relatively soft rock that gradually hardens over time. They were likely engraved using objects harder than the sandstone itself. But what about the handprints that seem to have been literally pressed into the rock? They lie deep within the hardened sandstone, creating the impression that ancient people somehow softened the stone. While this has not been extensively studied, experts believe that the childbirth explanation offers a plausible reasoning. Through repeated pressing and pushing over time, these handprints became deeply and clearly embedded into the sandstone. Priceless treasure in a 4,500-year-old tomb astonishes archaeologists. When it comes to ancient Egypt, most people immediately think of pyramids, pharaohs, and mysterious mummies. But you may not know that Saqqara, a vast ancient necropolis located about 20 miles south of Cairo, has long hidden secrets far beyond our imagination. Recently, a discovery shook the archaeological world. A 4,500-year-old rock-cut tomb was uncovered in the heart of Saqqara, revealing priceless treasures of this enigmatic civilization. The discovery was confirmed by the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities and resulted from a collaboration between Egyptian and Japanese archaeologists. Led by Dr. Nozomu Kawai, the team opened a window into the past, finding a tomb carved directly into the rock, dating from 2649 to 2150 BCE, the era of Egypt's Old Kingdom. With such a long history, the tomb served not just as a burial site, but also as a stone journal, chronicling various historical periods of Saqqara and ancient Memphis. During the excavation, the team felt as if they had entered a true treasure trove. They discovered the remains of a man buried with a remarkably lifelike mask, its vibrant colors appearing as if painted yesterday, despite having survived millennia. Nearby lay the burial of a small child dating to the Second Dynasty, 2890 to 2686 BCE, indicating that this area served as a cemetery for multiple social classes of ancient Egypt. Delving deeper, the archaeologists were astonished to uncover a coffin from the 18th Dynasty, 1550 to 1295 BCE. Inside it was a perfectly preserved gypsum jar, untouched and unbroken, as if it had been placed there only recently. But that was not all. Two finely crafted clay statues depicting the goddess Isis and the god Harpocrates were also found, reflecting the spiritual beliefs of the ancient Egyptians regarding protection and the afterlife. Additionally, the team discovered a stela inscribed with the name of a man called Heroides, along with numerous amulets and ostraca, pieces of pottery used for rituals and daily life. Each fragment, each inscription, provides clues to help archaeologists understand ancient Egyptian burial rituals, funerary practices, and spiritual beliefs. Saqqara, home to more than a dozen pyramids and thousands of tombs, has long been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Every few meters excavated reveals a new chapter of human history. This recent discovery follows a series of major finds in recent years. For example, last January, archaeologists announced two tombs from Egypt's 5th and 6th dynasties, 2500 to 2100 BCE, including a coffin that was exceptionally well preserved. And it's not just Saqqara. Egypt continues to reveal its secrets. Dozens of New Kingdom, 1800 to 1600 BCE, burial sites have been found near Luxor, and the remains of an entire ancient Roman city were discovered beneath the sands to the south. All of this demonstrates that ancient Egypt still has countless stories waiting to be told. Who knows, perhaps beneath the sands of Saqqara, treasures hidden for 4,500 years are still waiting to be unearthed. After all, you never know what might be discovered next. Chinese beauty mummy in a 700-year-old tomb remains almost perfectly preserved. On what seemed like an ordinary day in 2011, as a new road was being expanded in Taizhou, no one expected that just under about 6.5 feet of soil lay a secret that had been asleep for 7 centuries. The story began when a group of workers digging the site accidentally struck a strange coffin. Acting on instinct, they immediately halted all work, left the scene untouched, and called experts from the Taizhou Museum to take over. From that moment, the story unfolded like a thrilling archaeological film, gripping anyone who witnessed it. As soon as the specialists approached, they confirmed that this was no ordinary coffin. When the lid was opened, layers of fine silk wrapping the body gradually emerged, along with a layer of brown liquid coating it, something that still sparks debate among scientists today. Even more astonishing, when the final layer of silk was removed, before them lay the nearly perfectly preserved body of a woman. Her eyebrows and eyelashes were intact, and her face appeared soft and lifelike, as if she had only closed her eyes yesterday. She still wore jewelry, the most striking of which was a bright blue ring, clearly indicating her high social status. Based on her clothing and the items in the coffin, from pottery and writings to intricate silk layers, archaeologists determined that this woman lived during the Ming Dynasty, roughly 700 years ago. They named her the Taizhou Mummy, while the media affectionately called her the Chinese Beauty Mummy. She stood about 4 feet 11 inches tall, with a graceful figure and delicate features, signs that she belonged to the aristocracy during the prosperous era of the Ming Dynasty. So what allowed her body to remain so astonishingly well preserved? Many experts speculate that embalming techniques during the Ming era were remarkably sophisticated. According to Wang Weiyin, director of the Taizhou Museum, mummies of that time were often wrapped in multiple layers of silk and some cotton, creating a sealed environment that slowed decomposition. Others suggest it may have been a natural process. The coffin might have been buried in a stable, low-oxygen environment, preventing bacterial growth and preserving the body for centuries. But what puzzled archaeologists most was not the preservation itself. It was the woman's identity and life story. Who was she? What position did she hold? And why was she buried in a remote location with no other remains nearby? All of this remains beyond archaeologists' expectations, as no related documents or tombs have been found, making the quest for the truth even more challenging. Today, the Taizhou mummy is preserved at the Taizhou Museum, which has been exhibiting Ming Dynasty mummies since 1979. After decades of study, Chinese experts have gradually learned how to maintain bodies intact after excavation. Yet this 700-year-old beauty still holds many unsolved mysteries. It is precisely these enigmas that make her story so captivating, and every time it is recounted, it feels like stepping through a doorway into a distant past. Upon reflection, one realizes that history always knows how to hide unexpected treasures, and sometimes, a single accidental shovel strike can shake the entire archaeological world. a 1,900-year-old Roman sword set found in a Dead Sea cave. If you think the caves around the Dead Sea are nothing more than sand, rocks, and a few small relics, think again. Right in this seemingly fully explored region, archaeologists have unexpectedly discovered 4 Roman swords, almost perfectly preserved, and they are nearly 1,900 years old. A find that would send chills down the spine of any history enthusiast. Initially, scientists returned to this cave with the sole purpose of studying a stalactite inscribed with ancient Hebrew script. It seemed like a routine survey, but as they followed the remaining traces, related artifacts began to appear. Then, in a deep crevice on the upper level of the cave, almost inaccessible without specialized equipment, they uncovered a weapons cache hidden for nearly 2 millennia. The weapons consisted of 4 swords wedged tightly in a rock crevice, astonishingly well preserved. Even more remarkable, the swords still had their handles and scabbards, made of leather, wood, or metal. For ancient weapons, having intact handles and scabbards is extremely rare, as leather and wood typically decay over time. Yet, in the harsh, dry environment of this cave, they survived almost as if someone had hidden them just a few years ago. According to researchers, 3 of the swords are spathas, a long sword commonly used by Roman soldiers. Each blade measures about 24 to 26 inches long. The 4th sword differs, with a round handle and a shorter blade of only 18 inches. Based on the shape and construction, archaeologists believe these swords were likely spoils taken from the Roman army during the empire's occupation of Judea. After the sword discovery, the team expanded their excavation within the cave, uncovering even more intriguing artifacts. They found items dating back to the Paleolithic era, around 6,000 years ago, alongside Roman-era objects from roughly 2,000 years ago. This indicates that the cave was used across multiple periods, with each era leaving its own traces behind. Delving deeper, the team uncovered a highly significant piece of evidence: a bronze bar Kokba coin dating from 132 to 135 CE. This corresponds to the Bar Kokhba revolt, the major Jewish uprising against Roman rule in Judea, led by the leader Simon Bar Kokhba. Given the coin's date and the location of the swords, archaeologists suggest that these weapons were likely seized from the Romans by Jewish rebel fighters and hidden in the cave to avoid detection. Perhaps the fighters never returned to retrieve them, leaving the swords undisturbed in darkness for nearly 2,000 years, waiting to be discovered by modern humans. As you can see, the story of a single Dead Sea cave opens a fascinating window into history. A bloody revolt, the warriors who fought to reclaim their homeland, and weapons forgotten by time. Truly a remarkable find, isn't it? 80 bronze mirrors found in a Han Dynasty tomb, China. In a dramatic and captivating archaeological discovery, scientists have excavated a remarkable collection of ancient bronze mirrors from a cemetery in Shanxi Province, China. Believed to be the burial ground of Han Dynasty nobles more than 2,000 years ago. Can you imagine it? After 2 millennia, many of these mirrors are still reflective, preserving intricate patterns, swirling clouds, and delicately carved depictions of ancient figures as if they were made yesterday. The mirrors range in size from about 2.8 to 8.7 inches in diameter. They were not merely cosmetic tools, but also symbols of status, ritual, and even sacred protection for the deceased. Most were placed near the head or upper body of the skeletons in the tombs. The cemetery where these treasures were uncovered is located in Gaozhuang town, within the Xin district of Xi'an, Shanxi, a region that was once a cultural and political center of the Han Dynasty. This area contains more than 400 tombs of the noble class, surrounded by countless artifacts, from exquisite pottery to bronze jewelry, and notably, bronze mirrors, living evidence of the advanced craftsmanship and aesthetic thinking of ancient China. Initially, the archaeological team discovered the cemetery and some familiar artifacts, but recent excavations revealed the true treasure: a large collection of bronze mirrors found in both male and female tombs, illustrating the widespread and diverse role of mirrors in Han Dynasty daily life and funerary culture. What particularly impressed researchers was the mirror's artistry and manufacturing technique. Made primarily of bronze and tin, with traces of lead, each mirror was cast in a clay mold and polished so thoroughly that it could produce a clear reflection. Unlike other bronze objects, the mirror's function, reflecting images, required far more careful and meticulous surface treatment. In fact, looking into these mirrors, you don't just see your reflection, you almost feel glimpses of a living ancient civilization within. According to archaeologists from the University of Hong Kong, the idea of creating mirrors likely originated from a simple yet profound moment when ancient humans first saw their own reflection in the still waters of a pond or lake. From this inspiration, the concept of making reflective objects emerged. Over time, starting with the Neolithic Qijia culture in Gansu, where China's oldest mirror, approximately 4,000 years old, was found, mirror-making techniques gradually improved. However, it was only during the Han Dynasty that mirror production reached its pinnacle. Mass-produced, stylistically diverse, consistent in quality, and deeply symbolic in Chinese society, mirrors were not only personal items, but also powerful cultural artifacts. They appeared in rituals, myths, and especially in beliefs about the afterlife. Placing mirrors in tombs was believed to help the deceased see the path to the underworld or to reflect evil spirits, protecting the soul. Decorative motifs on the mirrors, from mystical clouds to mythological figures, carried profound symbolic, religious, and spiritual meanings. The Han Dynasty, which lasted from 206 BCE to 220 CE, is regarded as a golden age in Chinese history, marked by remarkable advances in science, technology, literature, medicine, and the arts, comparable to the peak of the Roman Empire in the West. In this context, the creation of exquisitely crafted bronze mirrors and their widespread use among the nobility reflects the wealth, sophistication, and symbolic culture achieved by Han society. If you ever thought archaeology was just about digging up bones and old objects, these mirrors will make you think again. They are not merely ancient artifacts, they are time windows, vividly reflecting the stories, beliefs, and aesthetic sensibilities of our ancestors from thousands of years ago. And who knows? Behind their slightly cloudy surfaces, countless secrets may still remain untold. 2,000-year-old tomb on Briar Island reveals the golden age of Iron Age female warriors. Amid the salty sea breeze and the lush green grass of Briar Island, few would imagine that beneath the seemingly peaceful soil lies a story that has kept archaeologists captivated for years. It is the story of a tomb over 2,000 years old, discovered in 1999, a discovery that quickly became the center of debate because it challenges conventional ideas about Iron Age society. During excavation, researchers were surprised to find, alongside the skeletal remains, a bronze alloy sword and a large shield. Anyone familiar with the Iron Age knows that such items were typically buried with male warriors, men who went to battle and protected their communities. At first glance, it seems straightforward. The tomb belonged to a high-status male warrior, but all assumptions were overturned by an unexpected discovery. Within the same tomb, archaeologists also found a hairpin and a bronze mirror, items traditionally associated with women in ancient times. Both objects served as identity markers, used to accompany high-status women in burial rituals. On one side, symbols of male status, on the other, symbols of female identity, all placed with a single set of remains. This contradiction left experts puzzled. Who, then, was buried in this tomb? Dating methods revealed that the tomb dates from roughly 100 to 50 BCE, a turbulent period for ancient British tribes. This was a time when communities were in constant conflict, competing for land, resources, and survival. In this context, the burial of a woman with both a sword and a mirror is extraordinary. It not only confirms the presence of female warriors, but also suggests that these women played significant roles in a society often assumed to be dominated by men. Many hypotheses suggest that this woman may have been a military leader of her local tribe. The sword symbolizes power and combat ability, while the mirror represents status and authority. Together, these items portray not just a warrior, but a figure of influence, someone who may have led raids, organized defenses, or even commanded battles right on Briar Island. Some researchers believe that the presence of powerful women like her in Iron Age communities may have paved the way for legendary figures who followed, most notably Boudica, the warrior queen of the Iceni tribe. Boudica led a fierce uprising against Rome in 60 CE, shaking the mighty empire. Perhaps precedents like the woman in the Briar tomb laid the spiritual and social groundwork for future female leaders. Although we may never fully understand the precise meaning of each object in the tomb, the combination of sword, shield, hairpin, and mirror tells a story more clearly than words alone. This woman once held a remarkable place in her society. A warrior, a leader, or both. Whoever she was, this makes the Briar Tomb an astonishingly compelling window into the past. 12 most mysterious and ancient archaeological discoveries that shocked the world. Shattered skeleton and a chilling ritual reveal the brutality of the medieval era. If you think stories from the Middle Ages exist only in books, think again. Because just beneath a thin layer of soil in the Podgórze district of Krakow, Poland, a spine-chilling secret has been uncovered. A secret involving skeletons, ancient rituals, and traces of the brutality humans once endured. And trust me, this story will give many people goosebumps. It all began when construction crews building the two-lane S19 highway unexpectedly unearthed a fragment of human bone. From that small discovery, archaeologists quickly stepped in, and soon an entire 16th century cemetery quietly emerged. Not one or two, but a total of 115 graves were excavated. Even more unsettling, 70 to 80% of them belonged to children, the tiny inhabitants of the village of Jezoe more than 400 years ago. The graves were arranged along an east-west axis, with the heads oriented toward the west, following the religious burial customs of that time. But what shocked experts the most were the coins found inside the mouths of each skeleton. Not jewelry, not typical burial items, but small coins placed in a very specific spot, as if the living were sending something along with the dead. According to GDDKiA, the agency overseeing the project, these coins may have been part of an old Polish folk ritual. People once believed that when a soul left this world, it would need money to pay the fee for its journey to the afterlife. A strange belief perhaps, but one widely shared across medieval Europe. Sound familiar? Exactly. The image of souls paying a coin to Charon, the ferryman who carried the dead across the rivers Styx and Acheron in ancient Greek mythology. It turns out that even separated by thousands of years and entirely different cultures, beliefs about a person's final journey can still share astonishing similarities. What's more, the coins found in the mouths of the skeletons were identified as Boratinki and Potaraki, currencies circulated during that period. They serve as crucial pieces of evidence helping experts determine the dating of the graves, revealing a section of the cemetery designated exclusively for children, young souls who left the world before they had the chance to grow up. But there is another detail that chills anyone who hears it. In the same excavation area, archaeologists discovered the shattered skeleton of a man showing signs of a cruel medieval torture method. The presence of this broken body, buried among children, makes the entire scene even more haunting. It raises disturbing questions. What happened here centuries ago? Why were the children buried with such care, while this man suffered such a horrific fate? To this day, no one has a definitive answer. But think about it. Beneath what seemed like peaceful ground lay traces of life, death, faith in the afterlife, and the brutality of humankind. A small piece of land containing a story that stretches across centuries. Isn't that fascinating? The deeper we dig, the clearer the past becomes. And sometimes, the truth that rises from the earth is far more terrifying than any legend we've ever heard. What do you think about the ritual of placing coins in the mouths of the dead? Was it an act of respect? Or is there something more mysterious behind it? Take a moment to think about it. A 2,000-year-old mummy found in a garbage dump in Yemen. Amid the turmoil of Yemen, a land where war and humanitarian crises have overshadowed countless cultural treasures, a shocking discovery has left the world stunned. A 2,000-year-old ancient mummy was found discarded in a garbage dump, curled up, its abdomen slit open, and its body wrapped in animal skin, exactly following the mummification traditions of ancient times. Just hearing that is heartbreaking, isn't it? A historical treasure once respected for thousands of years, thrown away like worthless trash in a foul-smelling heap of waste. According to Yemen's Antiquities and Museums Authority, the mummy had been dug up by tomb raiders who dumped it after failing to sell it or fearing they would be caught. Their actions were nothing less than stripping away a piece of Yemen's soul, a land that was once the cradle of the legendary Sabaean civilization. This didn't just enrage Yemenis, it shocked archaeologists worldwide, revealing the brutal extent of artifact trafficking in a country ravaged by economic collapse, humanitarian disaster, and prolonged conflict. Fortunately, after its discovery, the mummy was transferred directly to the National Museum in Sana'a. There, experts began an intensive preservation process to prevent decomposition, a desperately urgent task, since Yemen's hot and humid climate and unsanitary conditions make the mummy highly vulnerable to bacterial damage. Watching the meticulous care the specialists devote to every tiny detail, you realize that preserving a mummy is not merely protecting an artifact, it is safeguarding history itself, the memories of a people who once shone as brilliantly as the desert sun. More importantly, this discovery officially places Yemen as the third country in the world, after Egypt and Chile, recognized for possessing ancient mummification traditions. Following examinations and analyses, experts believe the mummy likely dates back to the 3rd century BCE and is connected to the famed Kingdom of Saba, the very kingdom where, according to legend, the Queen of Sheba journeyed to meet King Solomon. Just imagining that makes you feel the breath of myth lingering across every preserved strand of ancient skin. Researcher Abdullah Mohsen, who has spent years tracking the smuggling of antiquities, confirms that numerous mummies still lie hidden in both natural and man-made caves throughout Sabaean territory. This suggests that Yemen's historical treasures may be far greater than we ever imagined. Yet, ironically, just as these treasures are on the verge of being discovered, the resources needed to preserve them are critically lacking. Even the University of Sana'a Museum, an institution that should be a fortress protecting cultural heritage, is struggling daily due to shortages of equipment, infrastructure, and funding. It's heartbreaking to think that a nation so rich in culture is now fighting just to safeguard what should have been honored and cherished. That's why the story of a mummy thrown into a garbage dump is not only Yemen's tragedy, it's a warning to all of us. Cultural heritage, if not protected, can be destroyed in an instant. And sometimes, a single careless act can erase 1,000 years of history forever, leaving future generations with no understanding of the glorious civilizations that came before them. An 882 short-ton monolith with a shape that baffles scientists. Have you ever heard of a tiny, peaceful Japanese village that hides a secret weighing nearly 882 short tons? If not, then let me take you back in time to Asuka, an ancient land in Nara Prefecture, Japan, where every inch of soil is steeped in more than 1,500 years of history. It sounds tranquil, but resting on a hillside there is something so massive and so mysterious that scientists have struggled for years to understand it, and still have no answers. Asuka, whose name in the Ainu language means flying bird, was once a cultural center during the Tumulus period, from around AD 250 to 552. In those days, people built keyhole-shaped burial mounds surrounded by moats to honor the dead. But among the many ancient traces left behind, one stands out so dramatically it's impossible to ignore. Enormous granite stones carved into strange and perplexing shapes scattered throughout the region. And among them, the most remarkable, the most prominent, and the most confounding of all is Masuda no Iwafune, known as the Stone Ship of Masuda. This monolithic block measures about 36 feet long, 26 feet wide, and nearly 16 feet tall, and weighs roughly 882 short tons. It sits firmly near the top of a hill. Its upper surface is polished flat, with 2 deep square holes, each about 3.3 feet long, running parallel to each other. At the base, bizarre grid-like depressions appear, and no one can explain what they were for. At first glance, it feels like a structure of great importance, but important in what way? No one knows. And so questions pile up. Who carved it? In what era was it made? What purpose did it serve? And why does it look so strange? To this day, not a single answer is definitive. We only know that the area around the stone is filled with ancient Buddhist temples and shrines, leading many to believe it might have been part of a religious construction created by early Buddhists. But that's just a theory, because Masuda no Iwafune resembles no known Buddhist relic, so that door remains as open as an old gate no one bothered to lock. Another theory focuses on its name, the Stone Ship of Masuda. Some suggest it was built to commemorate the construction of Lake Masuda, an actual site that has since dried up and become part of present-day Kashiwara. It sounds plausible, but the evidence is far too thin to draw a real conclusion. Then comes the most famous and attention-grabbing theory, that it was once an astronomical observation point. A ridgeline on top of the stone aligns with the sunset on a specific day of the year, the day that marked the beginning of a new season in the old lunar and agricultural calendars of Japan. A compelling idea, but many scholars reject it, saying the stone lacks the necessary features of a true astronomical observatory. And that's not all. Some believe Masuda no Iwafune might be the remains of an unfinished royal tomb. But like the earlier theories, this one also falls apart. No human remains were found, and the unusual square holes don't match any known tomb architecture from that period. Even more intriguing is the fact that Masuda no Iwafune shares striking similarities with another giant monolith, Ishi no Hoden, which also has a similar ridge pattern and today serves as a Shinto shrine dedicated to the deity Oshiko Jinja. But just like the stone ship, its origins and purpose remain a total mystery. And that just shows us something. No matter how advanced science becomes, the past still guards secrets so baffling that even modern scholars struggle to scratch the surface. Masuda no Iwafune is exactly one of those enigmas, lying silently, challenging everything we think we understand about Japan's ancient history. The underground weapons depot, built by 700,000 laborers, reveals a bloody secret inside the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang. When people mention Qin Shi Huang, you probably think immediately of the iron-fisted emperor who unified the 6 states and laid the foundation for ancient China. But what few expect is that deep underground, beneath a hillside in central China, lies another world. An enormous structure sealed for more than 2,000 years, surrounded by a moat filled with poisonous mercury. Just hearing that is enough to send chills down your spine, because the owner of this monument clearly intended for its secrets to remain buried forever. Among the many sections inside the mausoleum complex, the most striking discovery is the burial pit known as K9801, which stunned archaeologists the moment it was unearthed. It lies between 2 fortified walls, about 656 feet southeast of the main tomb. The area is so large it resembles the layout of a small village, about 427 feet long, 328 feet wide, covering a total of approximately 140,000 square feet. This is the largest burial pit ever discovered within the entire mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang. As layer after layer of soil was removed, what appeared before the researchers was not gold or jewels, but hundreds of suits of armor and stone helmets stacked like an underground military warehouse. In total, there were 87 stone armor suits and 43 stone helmets, all crafted from shale plates meticulously tied together with copper wires. It sounds simple, but the craftsmanship required to create one suit of armor is astonishing. Each stone plate had to be shaped, carved, drilled, polished, and then assembled. A single suit required about 600 individual plates, and if one craftsman worked 8 hours a day, it would take 344 to 444 days, almost an entire year, just to finish one. Now multiply that by the hundreds found here, plus the thousands more mentioned in historical texts, and you'll understand why experts estimate that around 700,000 war prisoners and slaves were forced to work on the construction of the mausoleum. Even more tragic, after the workers completed their tasks, many were executed to ensure no one could reveal the secrets of this underground world. But that's not all. Besides the stone armor and helmets, archaeologists in K9801 also found chariot reins, components of war chariots, bronze axes, arrowheads, and various other military items. The sheer concentration of these objects has led experts to believe this was essentially a weapons museum, a fully stocked armory prepared for the army meant to accompany Qin Shi Huang into the afterlife. Looking back at history, Qin Shi Huang, born in 259 BC, was the ruler who ended more than 2 centuries of warfare among the 6 warring states and unified them into a vast empire. Upon his death, he was buried in a mausoleum complex larger than an entire city, complete with palaces, underground chambers, terracotta soldiers, servants, and countless recreated amenities, an entire miniature world beneath the earth. Today, the mausoleum attracts millions of scholars and visitors, but only a small portion of its secrets has been uncovered. The K9801 burial pit stands as a powerful testament to the sophistication, ruthlessness, and mystery of this mighty empire. Every time archaeologists remove another layer of soil, they uncover yet another fragment of the emperor's endless ambition. An emperor so determined that he wanted his entire army to follow him into the next world. And who knows? Deep underground, there may still be other hidden weapon caches, sealed chambers, or mysteries the world has yet to even imagine. A 4,000-year-old skeleton of the earliest known person with Hansen's disease. Have you ever imagined that a single, silent skeleton buried deep underground could tell an entire tragic chapter of human history? If not, then let me take you through the traces of one of the most heartbreaking pieces of evidence of social stigma, the 4,000-year-old skeleton of a person with Hansen's disease, also known as leprosy, discovered in India. And believe me, the story behind it is not just archaeology. It's a mirror reflecting how humans have treated those deemed different. For thousands of years, Hansen's disease was seen as a curse that could never be lifted. Those who suffered from it endured not only painful, disfiguring wounds, often to the point where they could hardly recognize themselves, but also the crushing weight of rejection. Imagine enduring constant physical pain, and yet every step you take feels like being cut by the eyes of others, who see you as impure, as someone unworthy of belonging to the community. Today, science has advanced, and Hansen's disease is no longer as dangerous as it once was, and is completely treatable. But looking back, it's clear that this illness once carried the heaviest social sentence a human being could face. And the clearest evidence of that is precisely the 4,000-year-old skeleton the archaeologists found, a silent but haunting witness. According to experts, this individual was not cremated according to ancient Hindu tradition. Instead, they were placed inside a stone alcove, far away from the burial grounds of healthy people. What seems like a simple act actually reveals a brutal truth, that society deliberately pushed this person outside the circle of the community, even after death. Even more striking, the bones were covered in ash made from burned cow dung. It may sound strange, but in Hindu belief, cow dung ash symbolizes purity and was thought to dispel impurity. This shows that people of the time believed that only by using such a sacred material could they cleanse what they perceived as defilement associated with leprosy. In other words, this person wasn't only separated from the community, they were branded as not pure enough, even in death. As you can see, behind an ancient skeleton lies more than archaeology or religion. It is a reminder of discrimination that has existed for millennia. Even today, though we are more advanced, more knowledgeable about disease, and have abandoned many old misconceptions, this story still forces us to ask, are we in modern society still treating those who are different with the same coldness as our ancestors once did? A 4,000-year-old skeleton, a life pushed to the margins, a reminder that indifference can last longer than pyramids and be buried even deeper than ancient relics. So what about you? What do you think about stigma in the past and today? Feel free to share your thoughts. A massive hidden gold hoard inside a Chinese mountain, accidentally discovered by an elderly farmer. You know, there are moments in life that feel like they belong only in stories, yet somehow they happen in the real world in ways no one could ever predict. Take, for example, the story of an old man named Yang from Pinglu, China, on a scorching summer day in 1980. That day, just like countless times before, he went into the mountains to gather firewood. But the heat was so intense, it felt as if even his breath might burst into steam, forcing him to duck into a small roadside cave for shade. And it was in that brief, accidental moment of rest that an unbelievable discovery unfolded, one that would make anyone's eyes widen. In the dim darkness of the cave, Yang noticed a faint, flickering glimmer deep inside. Most people would have assumed it was just light reflecting off mineral rock. But driven by curiosity, he stepped closer. And then, right before him, appeared a sight he had never even dreamed of in his entire life of hard labor. Bars of gold scattered between the rocks, each engraved with strange inscriptions. Stunned, confused, and swept up by a wave of greed he had never felt before, he immediately gathered all the gold he could and brought it home, leaving every question behind. But good fortune that comes too easily often makes people suspicious. Yang's son looked at the pile of gold and felt uneasy, wondering if it might just be brass-plated with gold. After much discussion, he convinced his father to have one bar tested, just in case. At the jewelry shop, the owner inspected it carefully and quickly confirmed, "This is real gold." But then his eyes lingered on the odd inscriptions, prompting him to ask where it came from. Hearing that, the old man stammered something about it being family treasure and hurried out, afraid that staying even one moment longer would lead to trouble. The gold was real, but the situation was far from simple. That night, Yang's son urged him to hand the gold over to the authorities, knowing ancient gold rarely belonged to private individuals. But after a lifetime of poverty, the old man found it nearly impossible to let go of a mountain of gold he had finally touched. He immediately began planning to exchange it for money and enjoy a life of wealth while he still could. But life doesn't always unfold the way we want. When father and son brought the gold to the local bank, staff members instantly grew suspicious. The gold bars looked far too unusual, and the pair's nervous behavior raised even more alarms. The bank discreetly alerted the police. Before long, officers arrived and brought both men in for questioning. Archaeologists were called in to examine the gold, and their findings shocked everyone. The gold was not only ancient, but it dated back to the Tang Dynasty, one of the golden ages of Chinese history. And according to Chinese law, all cultural relics belong to the state and cannot be bought, sold, or privately possessed under any circumstances. Fortunately, because the two men acted out of ignorance rather than malicious intent, they were only given a warning, though they were told that any further violation would lead to criminal charges. As you can see, this story is more than just a mysterious gold hoard. It's a clear reminder that a moment of greed can push people down the wrong path. Cultural relics that survive to this day are not just national assets, they are witnesses of history. So let me give you a small piece of advice. If you ever happen to stumble upon something ancient or valuable, it's best to report it to the authorities. Don't let a treasure turn into a trap, one that leads to a long night full of bad dreams. Headless falcon mummies reveal a never-before-seen ritual. Amid the dry, barren desert of eastern Egypt, where you'd expect nothing but sand and wind sweeping across stone, an astonishing secret has been uncovered, leaving archaeologists stunned. In the ancient city of Bereniki, once a bustling port on the Red Sea, a team of Spanish and Polish researchers working under the Saqqara Archaeological project unexpectedly discovered a strange temple dating back to the 4th to 6th centuries. Inside, they found 15 mummified falcons, most of them without heads. Just hearing that is enough to give anyone chills, right? The mummies had been placed around a large stone altar, as if arranged for some kind of ritual. Because of this peculiar setup, the archaeologists decided to name the site the Falcon Shrine, a title both mysterious and strangely sacred. The Falcon Shrine belongs to the northern complex, an important district of ancient Bereniki. Though this area was once a thriving trade hub connecting Egypt with faraway regions, centuries of abandonment have turned it into a true archaeological treasure, where only layers of drifting sand remain to guard the stories of the past. What surprised researchers even more was that the temple wasn't built by Egyptians. Instead, it belonged to the Blemmyes, a nomadic people from Lower Nubia, in southern Egypt and Sudan. At a time when the Roman Empire had already recognized Christianity as its official religion, the Blemmyes held tightly to their ancestral beliefs, maintaining ancient rituals as a powerful declaration of cultural independence. In a way, they seemed to be saying, "We refuse to be absorbed into the religion of the empire." Finding 15 falcon mummies was already bizarre, but what truly shocked the team was the discovery of a set of intact falcon eggs, unbroken, untouched. Nothing like this had ever been found at any other ancient site. Experts believe that this unusual combination of mummies and eggs may have been part of a mystical ritual dedicated to Khonsu, the ancient Egyptian moon god. Then, carved into one of the weathered stone walls, the team found a cryptic inscription: "Boiling heads here is forbidden." Reading that is enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Researchers think this was a warning against separating or boiling the heads of animals used in rituals, actions considered taboo. This suggests that the ceremonies performed in the Falcon Shrine weren't random or primitive, but highly structured, with clear and even strict rules. According to Professor Joan Aller Guzman, director of the Saqqara project, all the evidence uncovered so far reveals a unique fusion of traditional Egyptian religion and Blemmyes beliefs. It offers a vivid glimpse into a complex ritual system that existed at a time when the Roman Empire was slowly declining. The story of these 15 headless falcon mummies doesn't just spark curiosity about the true purpose of the rituals, it opens a doorway into the mysterious spiritual life of a once-forgotten community. What do you think about this discovery? Could those mummified falcons and intact eggs be hiding a message from the past? It's hard to say, isn't it? But I believe that one day, with the most advanced technologies, experts will finally uncover the answer to this ancient mystery. Ruins of the 9-story Demon Tower in China. If you've ever been fascinated by the tomb raiding tales and Ghost Blows Out the Light, you've probably heard of the 9-story Demon Tower. a place described as a deadly maze filled with layer upon layer of taboos. But hold on, it's not just a product of imagination, because in real life, out in the desolate lands of Qinghai, China, archaeologists have uncovered a chilling site known as the Reshui Number, one grand tomb, widely regarded as the real-world inspiration for the legendary 9-story Demon Tower. The story begins on a cold plateau far from the bustling cities of China. There, a massive burial complex lay silent for more than 1,000 years. When archaeologists excavated the site, they found countless sacrificial offerings, including 87 intact horses arranged in a specific order. The sheer number of livestock, cattle, and dogs buried alongside the tomb was so enormous that the ground above it had swelled upward, forming a shape the locals likened to a 9-story demon tower. This entire Reshui tomb complex sits in Dulan County, Qinghai Province. From the 7th to the 9th century, it served as a major burial center of the Tibetan Empire. Along both sides of the river lie more than 290 tombs of varying sizes. The site was discovered in 1982 and later designated a National Heritage Site in 1996. Among the hundreds of tombs, the most striking is the Reshui Number, one grand tomb, the largest and most elaborate, nearly equivalent to a royal-grade burial. The tomb facades are built in tiered, step-like layers, resting on a natural mountain slope that forms a gigantic trapezoid platform. Surrounding it are numerous smaller and medium-sized tombs, arranged like silent guardians protecting the mysterious figure at the center. But who was the person buried there? To this day, archaeologists still don't have a definitive answer. However, based on ancient Tibetan documents discovered at Dunhuang, many scholars believe the tomb may belong to Darian Chizu, who died in 694, a powerful figure later revered as a saint after the Tibetan Empire absorbed the Tuyuhun people. Speaking of the Tuyuhun, we must mention their unique funerary tradition known as sacrificial accompaniment. They believed that when a person died, animals had to be offered so the soul could be redeemed. The dozens of intact horse bodies, along with the remains of dogs, cattle, and oxen, serve as undeniable evidence of this spiritual belief. And because such a massive number of animals were buried with the deceased, the earth above swelled dramatically, creating that strange and haunting shape. This is how the tale of the 9-story demon tower began to spread among the people, a blend of mystery, fear, and ancient ritual. You see, sometimes the things we think belong only in fiction are lying quietly beneath untouched soil, waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe the stories we call legends are simply truths that have been buried for centuries. If you ever stand on the Qinghai Plateau, gazing down at those ruins filled with countless souls, you'll almost certainly ask yourself, how many secrets of history are still hidden in this cold, lonely land? Because I once asked the same thing. The ancient wine ship revealed beneath the Mediterranean after 2,000 years. Deep beneath the blue waters of the Mediterranean Sea, far below where sunlight can reach, lies a story that has slept for more than 2 millennia. Off the coast of Palermo in Sicily, researchers have just discovered an ancient Roman ship dating back to the 2nd century BCE. What's fascinating is that it rested quietly at a depth of roughly 302 feet, a place unreachable without modern technology. Thanks to an underwater exploration robot, the first images sent back made archaeologists practically freeze in astonishment. The entire hull was covered in sediment, but what immediately caught everyone's eye was the massive amphorae, the iconic Roman clay jars used to store wine, oil, and other valuable goods. The site looked as if a cargo hold swallowed by time had suddenly returned in perfect condition after more than 2,000 years. According to Valeria Lee Vegni, director of Sicily's Maritime Heritage, this discovery isn't just a major archaeological milestone, it's a time portal revealing clues about life on board, maritime trade, and the connections between coastal communities across the ancient Roman world. She emphasized that the Mediterranean remains an immense treasure chest where fragments of history continue to surface, each one uncovering a new piece of the puzzle of an empire that once ruled these seas. Because of its significance, the announcement immediately drew major attention from Sicilian authorities. Many archaeologists called it one of the most important findings in recent years. But here's the twist. It wasn't even the only discovery that year. Not far away, near the island of Ustica, at a depth of about 230 feet, another Roman ship was found. And guess what? It was also carrying amphorae filled with wine. Two discoveries so close together strongly confirmed just how active and prosperous the Roman wine trade once was. These ships were essentially the freight trucks of the sea, transporting intoxicating goods across the Mediterranean. And if you think such discoveries only happened recently, the story stretches even further back. In 2013, a nearly intact Roman vessel from the same era, the 2nd century BCE, was found at a depth about 164 feet off the coast of Genoa, roughly 1 mile from Alassio. That ship was like a floating library, packed with information about Roman trade routes and cultural exchanges. With discoveries piling up like this, it's hard not to wonder, how many more secrets lie hidden beneath the Mediterranean? How many untold stories? How many voyages that shaped the fate of an empire are still sleeping on the ocean floor? And maybe, one day, another underwater robot will surface with yet another treasure that leaves the entire world in awe. No one can say for sure, but what we do know is this. Each amphora brought back from the deep isn't just an ancient object, it's a fragment of the Roman civilization itself, a memory preserved by the sea for thousands of years, so we can hear its story today. The Forgotten Pharaoh's Tomb, a shocking archaeological discovery after 100 years of silence in the Valley of the Kings. Amid the sun-scorched deserts of ancient Egypt, beneath layers of sand that have preserved history for millennia, a pharaoh's tomb long thought to be lost to time has finally been revealed, marking a major turning point in world archaeology exactly 1 century after the last royal tomb was excavated. This is the tomb of Thutmose II, the pharaoh who ruled Egypt more than 3,500 years ago and was the husband of the famous Queen Hatshepsut. This discovery not only opens an entirely new chapter in the exploration of Nile civilization, but also revives untold stories about a king whose history has left too many gaps. Located in the western part of the Valley of the Kings, the resting place of many great pharaohs, Thutmose II's tomb was first uncovered in October 2022. However, it wasn't until the excavation season in late 2024 and early 2025 that archaeologists confirmed the identity of the person buried there, after carefully analyzing fragments of pottery inscribed with his name. One of the most significant shards bore a label indicating it once held natron, the salt mixture used in mummification, showing that a formal royal funerary ritual had taken place here. What makes this discovery especially remarkable is not just the identity of the pharaoh, but also the unusual condition of the tomb. Unlike Tutankhamun's tomb, discovered in 1922, which was almost intact with thousands of treasures in gold, precious stones, and a fully preserved mummy, Thutmose II's tomb was nearly empty. There was no mummy and no funerary goods. Experts suggest that the tomb was flooded shortly after burial, forcing priests to relocate all the treasures and possibly the mummy itself to another location for safekeeping. Despite the absence of magnificent artifacts or a royal sarcophagus, archaeologists confirm that the tomb was not looted. All evidence indicates that the relocation was carried out carefully, systematically, and respectfully, a rare occurrence in Egyptian archaeology, where most pharaohs' tombs were violated even in ancient times. This detail adds even greater value to the find. We are not just facing a tomb fated by time, but standing at the threshold of a story that is deeper, more nuanced, and far more dramatic. Currently, archaeologists are exploring a compelling hypothesis. There may still exist a second tomb, where the artifacts and the mummy of Thutmose II were hidden, lying somewhere in Deir el-Bahari or deeper underground. Some experts suggest that a mummy currently at Deir el-Bahari could belong to him, but age analysis indicates that it might predate this pharaoh, adding another layer of mystery to his life story. Notably, despite being a pharaoh, Thutmose II is one of the least known figures in ancient Egyptian history. Historical records remain fragmentary. Some scholars argue that his reign lasted less than 5 years, while others believe it may have been longer, possibly influencing Queen Hatshepsut's later rule. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York estimates his reign from around 1492 to 1479 BCE, a period when Egypt was transforming from a regional power into an empire controlling much of Northeast Africa. Dr. Muhammad Ismail Khalid, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, calls this one of the most important archaeological discoveries in recent years. Scholars like Professor Filip Taterka of the Polish Academy of Sciences Note that Thutmose II's tomb offers a rare opportunity to better understand royal burial structures, beliefs, and rituals of the New Kingdom, the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian civilization. The tomb measures 95 feet in length, with a burial chamber roughly 17.4 by 17 by 11 feet. Dry numbers, yet imagining this as the final resting place of a powerful king, witnessing sacred mummification rites, later submerged by water and then forgotten for 3 millennia, helps explain why the world is once again turning its attention to the Valley of the Kings. And perhaps this is just the beginning of a new wave of discoveries, where ancient secrets are gradually awakening under the light of modern science. Traces of human remains found beneath the Titanic wreck. More than a century has passed, yet the Titanic remains one of the deepest scars in maritime history. Even though the ship has rested on the floor of the North Atlantic Ocean for 113 years, the mysteries surrounding it have never ceased. Recently, a photograph released on the 100th anniversary of the disaster stunned the world, as it may provide evidence that human remains still lie buried beneath the wreck. In the photo, a coat and a pair of boots lie close together on the cold, muddy seabed. At first glance, it may seem ordinary, but to experts, the arrangement of these items carries significant meaning. James Delgado, Director of Maritime Heritage at NOAA, stated that the position of the clothing strongly suggests it could mark the final resting place of a victim. He added that inside parts of the ship that remain unexplored, the possibility of finding human remains is entirely plausible. Yet, discussions about Titanic are never without controversy. James Cameron, the director of the film Titanic and a veteran of multiple dives to the wreck, quickly responded. Cameron said he had never seen human remains on any of his dives, emphasizing that what remains are merely personal belongings, not traces of human bodies. Delgado, however, argues that this difference is largely semantic. As an archaeologist, he believes the photo of the coat and boots cannot simply be a coincidence. In the cold, dark, and quiet environment of the deep sea, human bodies decompose quickly, but the position of personal items can serve as evidence that remains may still be buried beneath the mud. Reflecting on the Titanic disaster, it's well known that the ship was the pride of maritime engineering at the time, a giant considered the most modern vessel in the world. It sank on April 15, 1912, after striking an iceberg. Of the more than 2,200 people aboard, only about 340 bodies were recovered, leaving nearly 1,160 individuals lost to the icy waters with no trace. This immense loss has made the Titanic not only a symbol of tragedy, but also the center of numerous legal disputes aimed at protecting the wreck, preserving the memory of the deceased, and safeguarding the historical legacy lying on the ocean floor. Every fragment and personal item left behind tells the final story of those who became part of history. Now, with the publication of the photograph showing the coat and boots, new questions arise. Beneath the cold mud where the Titanic rests, how many traces of the lost still remain? How many secrets of the North Atlantic seabed remain untouched by humanity even after more than a century? Perhaps it is these unanswered questions that ensure the Titanic continues to captivate our curiosity, keeping us listening, wondering, and searching even today. The most intact 110-million-year-old dinosaur fossil ever found. 14 years ago, at a mining site in Canada, workers accidentally stumbled upon a true scientific treasure. Not scattered bones, not a few isolated teeth, but an entire dinosaur body preserved so perfectly that researchers exclaimed, "It's as if this creature turned to stone while it was still asleep." The fossil belongs to Borealopelta markmicheli, an armored dinosaur that lived 110 million years ago. What astonished the world was not just its age, but the extraordinary level of preservation. From its skin and outer armor to its bones, nearly every feature retained its original shape. From a distance, many might mistake it for a sculpture rather than a fossil. Because of this, experts affectionately nicknamed it the sleeping dragon or the four-legged tank. Analysis shows that Borealopelta markmicheli was a gentle herbivore. Its body measured about 18 feet long and weighed over 2,800 pounds, enough that its steps would slightly shake the ground. Yet its final journey took an unexpected turn. After death, its massive body sank quickly to the bottom of an ancient sea. The deep mud and oxygen-poor environment on the seabed acted as a natural preservation chamber, keeping its form intact for hundreds of millions of years. When researchers began studying the fossil, they discovered that the armor covering the body was not only large but also reinforced with keratin, the same material found in modern nails and claws. This made the plates not just thick, but also long and heavy, giving the dinosaur a fierce, almost prehistoric warrior-like appearance. Particularly striking were the sharp spikes running along its neck and shoulders, which intrigued scientists. After measuring all 172 armor plates, researchers noted that the spikes at the front of the body were larger and more prominent than those elsewhere. Many experts suspect that these spikes were not only for defense, but also may have played a role in sexual selection, similar to how male birds display feathers or how mammals use horns to attract mates. Dr. Caleb Brown from the Royal Tyrrell Museum explained that complex physical traits in animals are often strongly influenced by sexual selection, but this does not rule out their defensive function. The spikes could have served as both weapons and ornaments, allowing Borealopelta to fight and impress potential mates in the prehistoric world. Today, the sleeping dragon fossil is on display at the Royal Tyrrell Museum, where it attracts thousands of visitors each year. Examining its intricate body features allows people to travel back in time, witnessing a moment when Earth was home to giant creatures. So what, you might wonder, allowed this dinosaur to remain so perfectly preserved? Was it the ancient ocean, sheer luck, or a secret yet to be uncovered? 12 Most Bizarre and Mysterious. Recent archaeological discoveries that terrified millions. A 2,300-year-old mummy found in agony beneath a northern European bog. If there is one place where time seems to freeze, where a person can lie for millennia yet still retain every strand of hair and even their fingerprints, the northern European bogs are exactly that strange time machine. And the story of the Growl Man, a 2,300-year-old mummy discovered in one of these bogs, will send chills down your spine from beginning to end. It all began in 1952. While a group of workers was digging for peat near the village of Growl, one of them suddenly felt his shovel hit something unusually firm. Thinking it was just a rotten log, he dug harder, but as the layer of peat was pushed aside, the entire group froze. Lying right before their eyes was a perfectly preserved body, its skin still elastic, its face appearing as if he had only fallen asleep rather than having lain beneath the bog for thousands of years. At first, locals speculated that it might be the body of Red Christia, a man who had gone missing in 1887. But when archaeologist Ulrich Balsev arrived to investigate, he immediately realized they were facing something far beyond a modern missing person case. The mummy was quickly transported to the museum, where Professor Glob's team conducted a full analysis. The results shocked all of Denmark. This man had lived in the 3rd century BC, more than 2,300 years ago. When researchers examined the mummy more closely, they discovered a sharp, clean cut stretching from his throat to his ear, right across the main artery, clearly evidence of a painful death. On top of that, 4 of his vertebrae showed signs of burning. All of this led experts to believe he was the victim of a brutal ancient killing. However, another theory emerged. He may have been a prisoner captured in conflicts between ancient northern European tribes. But the question that baffled historians was this: why was he not treated like other prisoners? Why was his body placed into a bog as if part of a special ritual? Even the fractured skull led many to think he had been beaten to death. But upon closer inspection, experts determined that these injuries occurred after death, likely caused by bog pressure or the excavation process. With every theory leading to a dead end, archaeologists decided to examine his stomach. This is where a completely new clue emerged. The Growl Man's last meal consisted only of corn porridge, several types of seeds, and traces of poisonous mushrooms, the same kind ancient Greeks used in mystical rituals. These mushrooms can induce intense hallucinations, even sensations of burning from within. This opened up a chilling possibility. He may have been part of a sacrificial ritual, or was given poisonous mushrooms before his throat was slit. Another astonishing detail was the unusual smoothness of his hands, showing no signs of hard labor or combat. These were not the hands of a prisoner or a warrior. So who was he? Someone chosen for sacrifice? Or a special figure within his ancient community? These questions remain unanswered. But what cannot be denied is the astonishing state of preservation. His hair still intact, nails clearly visible, and even fingerprints recoverable. His skin had turned a deep oak brown color, because in bog environments, tannins from oak seep into the body and naturally mummify it almost perfectly. In 1955, his remains were placed on display at the Mosgard Museum. But even with all the scientific advances since then, the greatest question remains unsolved. Was the Growl Man a victim of ritual, a victim of violence, or a victim of the very beliefs of his time? A mummy, 2,300 years beneath the mud, and a mystery that has never been answered. Do you find it haunting? Two mysterious mummies, hidden beneath the Arctic ice. If you think the Arctic is nothing but endless snow, ice, and bone-chilling winds, then you probably haven't heard about the strange discovery that has archaeologists on edge beneath the Siberian permafrost. Because right in Saqqara, the capital of Russia's Arctic region, where the average temperature is about 21 degrees Fahrenheit, experts uncovered a secret buried for centuries. Two astonishingly well-preserved mummies, one adult and one child. The adult mummy measures about 5 feet 7 inches long, and the body was tightly wrapped in thick fabric, animal fur, and even layers of sturdy tree bark. But the most shocking detail was the outermost layer, a full copper covering. Yes, you heard that correctly. Copper from ancient times and found in the middle of the Arctic. Specialists believe this is solid evidence that the ancient people of this region had metalworking skills far earlier than once assumed. They wrapped the bodies in copper, not only to preserve their form, but also to prevent bacteria from breaking down the remains. Combined with the year-round freezing temperatures, these two factors created nearly perfect preservation conditions found in very few places on Earth. The smaller mummy is believed to be that of an infant only about 6 months old. Both were discovered at the archaeological site of Zelený Jar, one of the most famous Arctic excavation zones. You might wonder, were these the first mummies ever found here? The answer is no. In fact, these two are only a small part of nearly 100 mummies uncovered at this site over the past 20 years, making Zelený Jar one of the rare living archives of medieval Siberian life. And as you may know, Zelený Jar is a complex archaeological zone containing 3 major structures: a copper casting workshop dating from the 16th to 17th centuries, a burial area formed during the 18th to 19th centuries, and an ancient cemetery from as far back as the 13th century, believed to be the origin of the 2 newly found mummies. However, the true ages of these 2 mummies are still a major mystery. To solve it, experts must bring them into laboratories for genetic tests, forensic analysis, and historical research to determine precisely which era they belong to, which civilization they came from, and what kind of lives they lived. Hopefully, in the near future, researchers will uncover the most accurate answers and share them with us. But the mystery doesn't stop there. Among the many artifacts at Zelený Jar, archaeologists also discovered a 10th century Persian copper bowl, originating directly from Persia, present-day Iran, located nearly 3,700 miles from Siberia. This raises a stunning question. How did an ancient Persian artifact end up in this remote frozen land, almost completely cut off from the rest of the world? To this day, the connection between ancient Persian civilization and the people of Siberia remains unexplained. But it is exactly these unanswered mysteries that make Zelený Jar a place every explorer dreams of visiting. A land where every block of ice and every layer of soil might hold a story capable of reshaping our understanding of human history. The frescoes and human remains of Pompeii. When we think of ancient cities, images of ruins and collapsed stone walls often come to mind. But few people realize that beneath the layers of ash left by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD lies a historical treasure being uncovered day by day. Pompeii, with its traces of daily life, continues to astonish the modern world with new discoveries. In 2024, archaeologists truly brought us back into the mysteries of the past through a series of remarkable findings, especially the stunning frescoes and the remarkably preserved human remains. Let's start in March, when archaeologists discovered a fresco depicting a tragic tale from Greek mythology. The painting shows Phrixus and Helle, the twin siblings tormented by their stepmother, forced to flee for their lives. In the final moment of her life, Helle is swept away by the waves as she reaches toward her brother, who is riding the legendary ram with the golden fleece. Found in a house first excavated in 2018, this fresco is not only a beautiful work of art, but also a window into the mythical stories of the ancient world. Notably, in the same area, archaeologists uncovered 2 additional ancient houses, bringing us closer to the daily lives of Pompeii's residents. Then in April came another extraordinary discovery. A large banquet hall was unearthed, its walls painted black and adorned with frescoes. These paintings were not merely decorative, they illustrated dramatic scenes from the Trojan War. In the dim glow of oil lamps, the images would have appeared almost alive, portraying legendary battles and heroic moments. The room's white mosaic floor, preserved almost perfectly, left viewers in awe of the craftsmanship and creativity of the ancient Romans. This banquet hall belonged to a large house, while the laundries and bakeries discovered the previous year were only small pieces of a much larger picture of commercial and social life in Pompeii. As summer arrived, the discoveries grew even more impressive. A shrine room with green walls was found, featuring images of women symbolizing the 4 seasons. These paintings not only captured the beauty of nature, but also reflected a deep belief in agriculture and livestock. The presence of items such as wine vessels and oil lamps suggests that this room was used for religious rituals. Every detail, its colors, its artifacts, indicates a sacred space where the people of Pompeii sought protection from the gods. In August, archaeologists revealed yet another stunning find. Inside a small bedroom, the remains of a married couple were discovered along with a small treasure of valuable items. Remarkably, the imprints of objects in the room allowed researchers to reconstruct the exact layout of the space at the moment disaster struck. A wooden bed, a marble table, and items made of bronze, ceramic, and glass appeared almost untouched, forming a vivid picture of the lives of those who perished under Vesuvius's fury. October brought yet another unforgettable discovery: a small house decorated with erotic frescoes. These works were shocking not only for their boldness, but also for the insight they offer into Roman culture and art. One painting portrays Princess Phaedra and her tragic affair with her stepson, Hippolytus. Another depicts the sorrowful love story of Venus and Adonis. Though controversial, these artworks form an essential part of the larger cultural tapestry of ancient Roman society. Complex, diverse, and deeply human. You see, every discovery, whether a small painting or a newly uncovered skeleton, brings us untold stories and unresolved mysteries from the past. What Pompeii has left us is not merely lifeless ruins, but vibrant pieces of a magnificent civilization buried in ash for millennia. And perhaps, hidden beneath the ground, there are still many more secrets waiting to be uncovered. The alien screw fossil. In 1990, in the Kaluga region of Russia, scientists discovered a strange fossil that looked exactly like a modern-day screw, enough to make anyone wonder, could this be an object dropped by extraterrestrial beings? Even more intriguing, Kaluga is believed to be the site where a large meteorite fell over 300 million years ago. This coincidence immediately fueled bold theories. Perhaps an extraterrestrial civilization had once set foot in this area, leaving behind traces that survive to the present day. Countless articles and debates emerged, and some people even believed this was an ancient piece of timeless technology. But science does not rely on coincidence or intuition. When archaeologists and paleontologists stepped in, they reached a conclusion that disappointed many. This screw was not manufactured by aliens, but was actually the fossilized remnant of an ancient marine organism known as a crinoid. Hard to believe, right? A sea creature leaving behind something that looks exactly like a metal screw? But that is the truth. Crinoids, also called sea lilies, first appeared during the Ordovician period, about 488 million years ago. They are distant relatives of starfish and sea urchins and once populated ancient oceans in great abundance. Their bodies are structured with long stalks made up of small disc-like segments arranged in a spiral pattern. When fossilized, these spiral segments often separate, creating shapes that look almost identical to the screw-like structure we see today. Crinoids reached their peak during the Paleozoic era, but most were wiped out at the end of the Permian period, the largest mass extinction event in Earth's history. Only a few families survived into the Triassic period, continuing to evolve and exist to this day. Currently, there are about 600 species of crinoids on Earth, though most have changed significantly compared to their tall and slender ancestors. In the Gulf of Tonkin in Vietnam, their descendants can still be found, though modern forms typically no longer have the long spiraled stalks of their ancient relatives. Because of this, zoologists call them stalkless crinoids. So that so-called 300 million-year-old screw is nothing more than the fossil remains of an ancient deep-sea organism that lived long before humans ever existed, not an artifact from extraterrestrials. But you see, even a tiny fossil can spark decades of global debate, and maybe that's what makes it fascinating. Nature sometimes creates things that feel like they came from another civilization entirely. Looking at that screw, we're reminded that Earth still holds countless secrets waiting to be uncovered. Not everything that resembles modern technology is made by aliens, but that sense of mystery is exactly what makes the journey of discovery so exciting, isn't it? Human sacrifice remains found beneath a 5,000-year-old bog. Did you know that on the island of Zealand, a peaceful region not far from Copenhagen, Denmark, archaeologists accidentally stumbled upon a secret that had been asleep for 5,000 years beneath the cold mud of a long-forgotten bog? And the story behind it is so captivating that the entire archaeological team reportedly felt chills from the very first moment. It all began quite simply, with a single femur bone sticking out of the ground. But as they followed the trail, more strange pieces started appearing. A lower jaw still holding several teeth, parts of legs, a pelvis, all scattered as if time itself had tried to hide the fate of this ancient individual. But the biggest surprise came when the team found part of a flint axe and animal bones lying beside the human remains. And if you've ever heard of ritual sacrifices from the Neolithic era, you'll know immediately. This combination is no coincidence. According to experts from the Roskilde Museum, this is almost certainly a case of human sacrifice, not an accidental fall into the bog. Such rituals were common in ancient times when people believed bogs were sacred places that connected humans to the divine. In other words, the victim was brought here deliberately. Archaeologist Emil Winterstruve shared that the very first bone fragments made the team realize they were facing an exceptionally rare discovery. Bog skeletons are not something you find every day. These remains typically date back thousands of years and contain invaluable clues about a prehistoric world humanity can barely touch. Struve also mentioned previous legendary discoveries. Koilbjerg Mon, the oldest bog remains in the world, about 10,000 years old. Tolland Man, famously preserved almost perfectly since 400 BC. Both were found in Denmark, suggesting the region was once a major center for ritual sacrifices. So what allowed this new discovery to resurface after thousands of years? It all began with a Danish requirement. Before constructing any new building, archaeological surveys must be conducted. Thanks to this rule, the bog near the town of Stenløse was drained, and a secret buried for millennia suddenly revealed itself before the researchers' eyes. However, excavation wasn't easy. Harsh winter weather froze the ground, forcing the team to pause and wait for warmer conditions. Some parts of the body, being outside the protective peat layer, had completely decomposed over time. Fortunately, the teeth remained intact, and those teeth are the golden key. With the teeth, specialists can determine the victim's age, and once the pelvis is fully excavated, they will be able to confirm whether the individual was male or female. Detailed enamel analysis may even reveal ancestry, diet, and geographic origin, potentially unlocking the biggest question of all. Why was this person chosen as a sacrifice during the Neolithic era? The story is still unfolding, and each bone fragment serves as a reminder that human history still holds countless unanswered mysteries. And who knows, beneath some quiet patch of earth, even more stories may be waiting to be uncovered and retold. What do you think drove ancient people to choose human sacrifice? Take a guess. Sometimes our questions and theories open new paths for researchers to explore. The 3,500-year-old inscribed tablet. Imagine a land once shaken by the footsteps of ancient empires, where every brick and every layer of soil hides stories untold for thousands of years. And then, not long ago, in the ruins of a city that was once a center of power, archaeologists in Turkey uncovered a small, humble-looking clay tablet that carries with it 3,500 years of history. The tablet, only about 1.57 inches long, 0.63 inches wide, and weighing roughly 1 ounce, immediately captured global attention. Not because of its size, but because of its astonishing content, a furniture shopping list dating back to the 15th century BC. Sounds strangely modern, doesn't it? A shopping list for tables and chairs, written thousands of years ago, almost as if the Bronze Age had its own version of a receipt. But in truth, This tablet is one of the rare pieces of evidence showing how the economy of that era operated. From private transactions to the management of public assets, from handcrafted production to detailed administrative record-keeping. Turkey's Minister of Culture and Tourism, Mehmet Ersoy, emphasized that this tablet is a key piece in understanding the economic structure and state organization during the Late Bronze Age. What makes this tablet even more remarkable is the language inscribed on it. Akkadian, a logographic syllabic script once widely used across the ancient Middle East. Akkadian is one of the oldest recorded Semitic languages, related to Arabic and Hebrew. Although extinct today, during the 3rd millennium BC, it served as the primary language of major empires, spoken and written from Iran to Egypt and across what is now Turkey. Thanks to the exceptional durability of baked clay, these Akkadian inscriptions have survived, bringing us back to a time when even the purchase of a wooden chair was deemed worthy of official record. The tablet was discovered during restoration work at the ancient city of Alalakh, known today as Tel Achana, near Antakya in southern Turkey. It was found in a soil layer disrupted by a massive earthquake. Ironically, that natural disaster paved the way for this extraordinary archaeological discovery. Around the 15th century BC, Alalakh served as the capital of the Kingdom of Mukish, a prosperous settlement under the control of the powerful Mitanni Empire in the ancient Near East. The Mitanni were renowned for advanced craftsmanship, especially in pottery, metalwork, and glassmaking. The Amorites, a Semitic people from western Mesopotamia, modern-day Syria, were the inhabitants who built and shaped its civilization. They not only created fortified cities, but also left behind massive earthen mounds, tells, formed through centuries of construction and reconstruction. Within these layers, archaeologists have uncovered numerous palaces and fortresses, many containing inscribed tablets that collectively paint a vivid picture of royal life, politics, and society at the time. Around 1350 BC, according to ancient records, King Shadawazza of the Mitanni ceded Alalakh to King Suppiluliuma of the Hittites, marking a pivotal shift in regional power. Each tablet and artifact unearthed, including this furniture list, is more than evidence of mundane transactions. They are historical fragments helping archaeologists reconstruct social dynamics, political structure, and everyday life in the ancient world. You might wonder, why would a simple shopping list be so important? But remember, during an era when writing itself was a privilege, dedicating an entire tablet to list household furniture reveals how essential these items were, likely for royal or elite households. They weren't just practical objects, they symbolized status, authority, and the organizational capability of the society. This is why archaeologists and linguists are now studying each word and symbol on the tablet with great care. The 3,500-year-old clay tablet is not merely an artifact, it is a mirror reflecting the past. It helps us understand that no matter the era, humans have always needed to organize, document, preserve, and seek stability in their daily lives. And sometimes, things as simple as a list of tables and chairs can open a window into an entire civilization. The medieval vampire skull. If you think vampires exist only in Hollywood movies, then this next story will definitely make you think again. Because right in the heart of romantic Venice, Italy, archaeologists uncovered the remains of what people in the 16th century genuinely believed to be a real medieval vampire. The discovery was made inside a mass grave on Lazaretto Nuovo Island, a former quarantine site during Venice's plague outbreaks. There, archaeologists found the skeleton of a woman, with a large brick jammed tightly into her mouth. Creepy enough, right? But to Venetians during the deadly plague of 1576, this was the only protective measure they believed could stop the vampire from rising again and spreading disease. Dr. Matteo Barini, a forensic anthropologist from the University of Florence who led the excavation, explained that before medical science existed, vampires served as the most logical explanation for why plague spread so quickly. Venice was losing hundreds of people every single day, over 50,000 deaths in just 1 year. In the chaos, any corpse showing unusual signs easily became proof of a demonic presence. But what counted as unusual? Barini explained that grave diggers at the time didn't understand the natural stages of human decomposition. When they reopened fresh graves to bury more victims, they often encountered bodies in mid-decay, swollen bellies, soft skin, fingernails and hair that seemed to have grown longer, and dark fluids leaking from the mouth. To us, these are normal biological processes. To them, these were unmistakable signs that the corpse was feeding on its burial shroud, the classic medieval image of a rising vampire. Just imagine this. You're a gravedigger in the 1500s. You open a coffin and see thick black liquid seeping from the mouth of a corpse. Would you stay calm? Probably not. And you can't really blame them, because they had no idea that the dark liquid was simply decomposed digestive fluids. These fluids soaked the burial cloth, causing it to recede into the mouth, making it look like the dead person was chewing it. Because of this misunderstanding, the gravediggers shoved a brick into the woman's mouth as a way to seal the vampire, hoping to stop the curse from spreading further. Interestingly, skeletons with similar conditions have been found in multiple regions across Europe, proving that fear of vampires was widespread throughout the Middle Ages. But this raises a question. Did the brick ritual truly originate from vampire beliefs, or was it just a desperate attempt at disease control? Barini suggests it was likely both. When death surrounds people every day, even the smallest irregularity can trigger panic. Symbolic actions, no matter how bizarre, become a form of psychological protection. Still, this discovery reveals a haunting chapter in European history, a time when fear, ignorance of biology, and overwhelming despair combined to create the very vampire legends we know today. A 3,000-year-old bog body carrying a 3.3 feet monster inside. Imagine standing in the middle of a vast marshland, with cold winds sweeping through and the water lying strangely still. Could you imagine that right beneath your feet once existed a 3,000-year-old ancient village, where people lived with monsters nearly 3.3 feet long inside their bodies? It sounds like pure mythology, doesn't it? Yet this story, seemingly pulled straight from a legend, is completely real at Must Farm in eastern England, a site often called the Pompeii of the Fens. During excavations, archaeologists from the University of Cambridge were stunned to discover the remains of a Bronze Age settlement built directly over water. People in that era constructed stilt houses anchored deep into the marsh, connected to one another by narrow, shaky walkways. Wooden boats were essentially the motorbikes of the time, allowing them to navigate through winding, watery channels. That peaceful life ended abruptly when a devastating fire swept through the village 3 millennia ago. The inferno destroyed everything, but it also created something miraculous. The flames caused the houses, objects, and even human remains to collapse straight into the thick mud below. And because marsh mud is an incredibly effective natural preservative, everything that fell, including traces of human life, remained astonishingly intact, as if frozen in time for 3,000 years, waiting to be rediscovered. But the most shocking discovery lay inside the bodies of these ancient villagers. When researchers analyzed the remains, they found that many Must Farm inhabitants carried a gigantic parasitic worm inside their kidneys, nearly 3.3 feet long. Just hearing that is enough to make anyone shiver. These monsters were the result of extremely risky eating habits: raw fish, raw frogs, and shellfish harvested directly from the swamp. Foods that seemed normal at the time turned out to be the perfect route for parasites to enter and grow inside the human body. Professor Piers Mitchell, leader of the research team, revealed that they found multiple deadly parasites preserved in astonishing condition. Among them were fish tapeworms, echinostoma worms that caused severe anemia, and most notably the giant kidney worm, the very creature responsible for the meter-long monsters living inside these ancient people. Even more surprising, the village dogs were infected with the same parasites, proving that humans and animals were sharing the same dangerous food sources. But Must Farm isn't just frightening, it's also incredibly impressive. The artifacts left behind show a community far more advanced than previously believed. Archaeologists uncovered elaborate jewelry, finely crafted tools, and expertly made household items. Objects so well made they astonished modern craftsmen. This level of sophistication, combined with the unique stilt house architecture built over water, is why Must Farm has been dubbed Britain's Pompeii, a place destroyed by fire but preserved almost perfectly because of it. From everyday domestic traces, to engineering techniques, to the horrifying evidence of parasites living inside its people, everything comes together to paint a vivid portrait of a culture that once thrived, only to vanish under the brutal force of flames. After hearing this, can you imagine what it would feel like to stand at Must Farm today? Almost like stepping into a time machine, touching memories that still hold the breath of 3,000 years ago? As for me, I believe it's entirely possible. A 1,700-year-old luxurious Roman bath perfectly preserved. Imagine planting trees in your garden and suddenly stumbling upon an ancient Roman relic. That's exactly what happened to a landowner in Turkey in 2023. While digging in his yard, he accidentally uncovered a Roman mosaic buried just beneath the cherry tree soil. From that chance discovery, archaeologists traced something that left everyone amazed: a lavishly decorated Roman bath, astonishingly well preserved, located only about 230 feet from the mosaic. Using underground radar scans, experts determined that the structure spans roughly 807 square feet and dates back 1,700 years. What makes it truly remarkable is that the bath's design and function resemble a full-fledged ancient spa. It might sound surprising, but it's remarkably accurate. The site includes a hypocaust floor heating system, a technology so advanced that even many modern buildings would admire it. In addition, the bath features distinct cold, warm, and hot rooms, a steam chamber, a swimming pool, and a separate clean water and wastewater system. Just imagining this gives a sense of how refined and sophisticated Roman life was at the time. Turkish cultural officials have announced that the site will soon be preserved and open to visitors. And this is just the beginning. The bath and the mosaic are only two of countless historical remnants still hidden beneath this historically rich land. According to Ahmet Demirdağ, the local director of culture and tourism, the area may have once been a Roman city, bustling with daily life, commerce, and architectural development. Excavations in the coming years are expected to reveal even more surprises. Archaeologist Emre Çayır, who oversees the excavation site, noted that this bath might be the first Roman bath ever found in the region. The most impressive aspect is that the cold, warm, and hot room layout remains completely intact, showing no signs of destruction over time. Every detail, from structure and materials to the overall layout, demonstrates the skill and sophistication of the community that once lived here. Çayır described the bath as an extraordinary and highly significant discovery, offering invaluable insight into daily life in ancient Rome. Turkey is well known for its layered history, so uncovering new relics isn't uncommon. But these recent finds have truly excited researchers. Last summer, archaeologists unearthed a 5th-century Christian church with much of its original structure still preserved. Early in 2025, they discovered a Bronze Age loaf of bread, so well preserved it looked like it had been baked yesterday. Looking at these continuous discoveries, it's easy to see Turkey as a vast treasure trove slowly revealing its secrets. Each layer of earth peeled back exposes a fragment of the past, from intricate mosaics and ancient churches to a luxurious 1,700-year-old Roman bath. And who knows, somewhere beneath an ordinary garden corner, there might still be another lavish structure waiting to be uncovered. 2,000-year-old mummified man reveals a gruesome ancient sacrifice. It all started back in 1984. Locals were doing what they'd done for generations, cutting peat for fuel, just another ordinary day. But on this day, something strange emerged from the thick black earth, a human body part. When workers and archaeologists carefully pulled the rest of the body out, everyone was stunned. What they'd found was the nearly perfectly preserved mummy of a young man, around 20 to 25 years old, who had lived in the 1st century AD, right when the Roman Empire was spreading its influence across the lands of the Celtic people. Archaeologists later named him Lindow Man. But what truly shocked everyone wasn't just how incredibly well preserved he was. It was the violent story his body told about how he died. As researchers gently removed the peat covering him, the evidence of brutality slowly came into view. Clear strangulation marks around his neck. He'd been garroted until he suffocated. A massive blow to the back of his head so powerful that fragments of his skull were driven into his brain. And finally, his throat had been slit deep, a fatal finishing cut. One man, killed in 3 different ways. Just thinking about it is enough to make your skin crawl. Experts quickly ruled out accident or a random fight. This was deliberate, ritualistic, planned. That's when the leading theory emerged. Lindow Man was most likely the victim of an ancient Celtic human sacrifice. In Celtic culture, offering a strong, healthy young person to the gods wasn't uncommon. They believe such extreme rituals could ensure good harvests, prosperity, or calm angry gods during hard times. The fact that he was killed in 3 distinct ways perfectly matches descriptions in ancient legends of a symbolic triple death, an extraordinarily powerful form of ritual sacrifice. The mystery deepens even further. Using carbon-14 dating on the contents of his stomach, scientists discovered the remains of his very last meal, grains and a type of flatbread. This not only paints a picture of what people ate 2,000 years ago, but also helped pinpoint his death to late spring or early summer, sometime between roughly 100 and 200 AD. Many believe that meal wasn't random. It may have been a required ritual food, part of the sacred preparation before being offered to the gods. What makes Lindow Man such an archaeological treasure is the rare combination of near-perfect preservation and the sheer amount of information his body provides. Every strand of hair, every piece of skin, every wound is a puzzle piece that helps us reconstruct the lives of ancient Celtic people, how they worshipped, how they fought, and how they viewed life and death. Calling him a priceless treasure isn't an exaggeration. When you stop and think about it, Lindow Man opens a window straight into the past, a world driven by deep faith, fear, and intensely sacred rituals. So tell me, after hearing this haunting story, which theory do you lean toward? Was he a criminal being punished, or a chosen one, willingly or not, offered up to the gods? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I really want to know what you think. The USS Edsall wreck, beneath the Indian Ocean. In the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean, where countless untold stories have been swallowed by the waves, there is a name that has commanded respect in the history of World War II for over 80 years: the destroyer USS Edsall. Recently, the Royal Australian Navy finally located the resting place of this ship, ending more than 8 decades of silence beneath the sea. As you may know, the USS Edsall was no ordinary vessel. Built in 1919, measuring 316 feet long, it joined the U.S. Navy just a year later. From the moment it became operational, the ship served as a steel shield for U.S.-Australian convoys, protecting them from fierce attacks by the Japanese Navy during World War II. Then came March 1, 1942, when an uneven battle etched Edsall into history. During the fight, the small ship astonished the enemy. Amid a storm of bombs and shells, Edsall weaved in and out, dodging attacks with seemingly impossible agility. The Japanese even gave it a nickname, the Dancing Mouse, a begrudging acknowledgement of its evasive skills. But soon the Japanese Air Force joined the fray, turning the encounter into a multi-hour pursuit. The chilling truth, however, is that after thousands of shells rained down, the USS Edsall was struck by a single fatal shot, one hit that sank the ship along with over 200 sailors. From that moment, these waters became a sacred site for the U.S. Navy, believed to be the final resting place for nearly the entire crew. The tragedy didn't end there. During post-war trials, declassified documents revealed that a few survivors were actually rescued by the Japanese, but instead of receiving humane treatment, they were executed. This only solidified the USS Edsall's status as a symbol of ultimate wartime sacrifice. It was not until the advent of modern robotic technology that the ship was finally located deep on the ocean floor. While detailed information about the vessel's condition has not yet been released, the discovery carries immense significance. It allows researchers to preserve an important piece of history and offers closure to the families of the lost sailors, letting them know their loved one's resting place has finally been found. U.S. Ambassador to Australia Caroline Kennedy poignantly remarked, "Now we can preserve this important site and hope that the families of these fallen heroes know that their loved ones have found peace." Think about it. A ship lying silent beneath the waves for 80 years, a battle remembered only through historical records, yet the courage of the USS Edsall sailors remains alive. A reminder that in the midst of brutal warfare, people fought to the very last moment for the cause of freedom. The story of Edsall, though sunken in the depths of the ocean, will continue to live in the world's memory. 500-million-year-old fossil discovered on a mountain in China. When we go hiking, we usually hope to find beautiful scenery, some fresh air, or a few good photos for social media. But for Mr. Yang from Linyi City, Shandong Province, China, a recent trip with his 5-year-old son turned into a real-life treasure hunt. and the treasure they found was so valuable that scientists immediately got involved. The story began when the father and son were climbing near the peak of a mountain close to Langong Temple. There, Mr. Yang's eyes stopped on a large, unusual rock. Its shape was completely different from the surrounding stones, and he immediately sensed that something was not quite right. Drawing on years of hiking experience and some basic geological knowledge, he began to suspect that this might be an ancient fossil exposed on the surface. So, the two of them decided to play a little treasure hunt for fun. Mr. Yang didn't have high expectations, thinking that finding a fossil was extremely rare. But just 7 to 8 minutes later, his son's excited shout startled him. "Dad, I found it!" When he ran over and looked at the spot his son was pointing to, he saw what appeared to be rocks with extremely intricate patterns embedded in the soil. They were unlike any ordinary stones he had ever seen. Realizing the potential significance of the discovery, Mr. Yang immediately took photos and posted them online, hoping an expert would verify them. Soon after, Professor Guo Ying from the Institute of Geology and Paleontology at Lindow University examined the find and confirmed that it was indeed a fossil of a trilobite, an arthropod that lived more than 500 million years ago, dating back to the Cambrian or Ordovician periods. This species is one of the earliest known forms of life on Earth and plays an important role in studying the evolution of early ecosystems. What makes this even more interesting is that the Lindow area has previously yielded numerous trilobite fossils in places like Jinan, Weifang, Rizhao, and Laiwu. Therefore, the discovery of another specimen further strengthens the geological research in the region. When Professor Guo confirmed the find, Mr. Yang was overjoyed. A trip that had seemed like just a casual outing and exercise with his son suddenly became a historic moment. On social media, people congratulated them and laughed with delight at the idea that this 5-year-old junior archaeologist might have discovered a lifelong passion for paleontology. The story of Mr. Yang and his son reminds us that nature quietly preserves wonders, and all it takes is careful observation and curiosity to uncover them. Who knows? Maybe one day you could be the one to find a trace of a world that existed 500 million years ago. Exciting, isn't it? 13 strangest archaeological discoveries recently excavated that shocked the world. The ancient skeleton with intact skin in Ireland. On October 17, 2017, when Storm Ophelia swept across the coast of Ireland with winds reaching up to about 75 miles per hour, scenes of devastation appeared everywhere. 3 people were killed, more than 330,000 households lost power, roofs were torn off, and countless flights were canceled. A truly heartbreaking sight, wasn't it? But you know what? Amid all that destruction, another kind of heartbreak emerged when a mystery more than 1,000 years old suddenly came to light. At Forlorn Point near Kilmore Key in Wexford, strong winds blew away layers of soil and revealed a prehistoric human skeleton. What shocked archaeologists was that the skeleton still had patches of intact skin, a phenomenon extremely rare in archaeological research. You might think nature only destroys, but this time, it unexpectedly became an accidental excavator, giving us a precious glimpse into the lives of the Irish people during the Iron Age. Through initial examinations and analyses, forensic expert Marie Cassidy determined that the skeleton was roughly 1,000 years old and belonged to inhabitants of the Iron Age. Because of this, experts immediately transported the remains to Dublin for detailed study in hopes of uncovering the cause of death, the person's age, and the living conditions of ancient people. However, even after many years, the results have still not been released to the public. What we do know is that the skeleton was later transferred to the National Museum of Ireland, where it is preserved, displayed, and honored as a unique cultural heritage item, helping the world better understand Ireland's ancient past. But did you notice something? The fascinating part here is how nature and history intersected so unexpectedly. While Storm Ophelia left behind destruction and loss, it also accidentally revealed a piece of the past that humans would never have seen otherwise. With just one storm, layers of earth that had rested for centuries were stripped away, leaving behind a vivid story of the life, beliefs, and existence of people who lived in Ireland 1,000 years ago. This discovery not only provided archaeologists with valuable data about Iron Age life, but also opened up many intriguing questions. How did ancient people live? What did they believe in? And how could the skeleton still retain patches of skin after centuries underground? Every layer of soil blown away by the storm is a reminder that history doesn't just sit quietly on paper. It is always waiting to be uncovered. The story of the skeleton at Kilmore highlights an important truth. Sometimes natural disasters bring not only loss, but also unexpected opportunities. It shows that nature, harsh as it may be, can sometimes act like an unwilling archaeologist, revealing mysteries that humans might take centuries to discover. The 600-year-old mass grave of 140 children beneath the hot sands of Peru. There are stories that send chills down your spine the moment you hear them, and the discovery announced on March 7th in Peru is one of those. At the Huanchaquito Las Llamas archaeological site, located about 373 miles north of Lima, archaeologists uncovered a secret buried for more than 600 years: the remains of 140 children who had been sacrificed in an ancient ritual. This wasn't just the largest mass child burial ever found in the Americas. It was also a haunting testament to ancient belief systems, where people saw human life as the most precious offering to the gods. What stunned researchers were the marks left on the victims' bones. Sharp incisions on the sternum and ribs showed that the children, and even livestock, had their chests opened, likely to remove their hearts as part of the sacrificial ritual. Based on analysis, experts determined that the victims included both boys and girls, ranging in age from 5 to 14 years old. The fact that children so young were used as offerings reflects the harsh and deeply spiritual worldview of ancient times, where sacred beliefs sometimes overshadowed even the instinct to protect the young. But the horror didn't end there. Across an area of roughly about 7,000 square feet, archaeologists also found around 200 llamas that had been sacrificed. Both humans and animals were buried in a specific arrangement, proving that the ritual was not random. It was organized, deliberate, and conducted on a massive scale. This raises an even more painful question. What could have driven an entire culture to sacrifice so many lives? The information about this shocking discovery came from years of research conducted between 2011 and 2016 by an international team of experts, and the findings were published in the scientific journal PLOS1 in March 2019. Among the researchers was Professor John Verano, who participated directly in the excavation. He emphasized that this is the first time scientists have found such a systematic and large-scale child sacrifice ritual in this region. According to him, this discovery is not just another historical puzzle piece, it opens up an entirely new direction for studying rituals involving child sacrifice in the ancient world. When looking at the silent remains beneath the soil, we see more than the traces of a religious ceremony. We see the darker corners of ancient civilization. These brutal elements help us understand how people of that era thought, what they believed in, and how they responded to the harsh forces of nature. Before the rise of the mighty Inca Empire, earlier pre-Inca civilizations existed with complex belief systems, including rituals that leave today's world stunned and unsettled. The story from Huanchaquito Las Llamas is like a doorway into another world, a world where people placed absolute faith in their gods, to the point of sacrificing what they valued most. And the more we learn, the clearer it becomes that the past is still full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. It shows us that the journey of exploring humanity isn't only about tracing our origins, it's also about confronting the truths that history tried to bury beneath the sands of time, don't you think? A World War II aircraft wreck hidden in the forests of Hong Kong. My friend, imagine you're taking a walk through the woods when suddenly you stumble upon rusted metal fragments lying silently beneath a layer of fallen leaves. Would you ever think they belonged to a fighter plane that once roared across the skies during World War II? If that thought has never crossed your mind, then come with me into today's story. A gripping 12-day journey deep inside Tai Tam Park in Hong Kong, where an entire historical treasure awakened after more than 7 decades buried in nature. It all began when a research team led by archaeologist Michael B.C. Rivera from the University of Hong Kong, along with 250 volunteers, ventured into the dense forests of Tai Tam to unlock a mystery that had lingered for over 75 years. And you know what? The results surprised everyone. During their expedition, they discovered more than 600 fragments of a military aircraft, from warped propeller pieces to a landing gear component measuring about 6.5 feet long, all scattered like pieces of a story forgotten by time. The most exciting part for archaeologists was that some pieces still had their serial numbers, which could serve as the golden key to identifying the aircraft. According to specialists William Belcher and Andrew Pietruska, the wreckage most likely belonged to a TBM-1C Avenger, a famous U.S. military torpedo bomber from World War II that took part in numerous high-risk missions across the Pacific. Now you might be wondering, so when did this plane crash? The answer lies in January 16, 1945, during the period when intense American airstrikes were targeting Japanese positions in Hong Kong. The ill-fated aircraft is believed to have been hit by anti-aircraft fire before crashing into the hills of Tai Tam. But here's the surprising part. It wasn't until 2011 that the crash site was finally identified, thanks to amateur historian Craig Mitchell, who spent years painstakingly tracking down faint traces left in old documents. Even so, the research team had to wait until just last year to begin the excavation because the COVID-19 pandemic put everything on hold. Yet this delay turned out to be a blessing, allowing for an extremely thorough investigation involving some of Hong Kong's top universities, including HKU, Hong Kong Baptist University, and the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Using modern technologies like high-resolution imaging, videography, and 3D modeling, they ensured that not even the smallest metal fragment was overlooked. The full results will be published in a scientific paper early next year, and they're expected to draw even more public interest. But perhaps the most valuable outcome is something deeper. This discovery has reignited curiosity and excitement about history, especially among young people. While many old stories have faded into books and memory, these silent fragments have become vivid reminders of the sacrifices and unfinished journeys of the past. So what do you think? If you had the chance, would you want to visit Tai Tam and see for yourself the place where a fighter plane crashed more than 75 years ago? As for me, I'll be honest, I can't wait. An 800-year-old treasure rises from the soil of India. Our next story takes us to the village of Pembarthi, India, where an ancient treasure suddenly came to light at 11 a.m. on April 8, 2021, a morning that seemed completely ordinary until a worker's shovel struck something far too unusual, revealing a massive treasure hidden beneath the earth. It happened while a construction crew was digging on a plot of land measuring about 11 acres, owned by Narasimha, a local real estate businessman. As they worked, they unexpectedly uncovered a pot buried roughly about 2 feet below the ground. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than an old, long-forgotten object. But when the lid was opened, everyone froze, because inside was a treasure in the truest sense of the word. And not just a few random trinkets. Inside the pot were 22 gold earrings, 51 gold beads, and numerous intricately crafted gold items. But that wasn't all. There were also 26 silver ingots, 5 silver chains, and several other silver objects. Mixed in with the treasure were glowing red rubies that sparkled under the sun. Everyone present could hardly believe their eyes. When the treasure was weighed, the results were staggering. About 418 pounds of gold and 3.8 pounds of silver. Numbers shocking enough to leave anyone speechless. But more important than the material value was the treasure's historical origin. According to Indian media, experts believe these precious artifacts may have belonged to the Kakatiya dynasty, which existed from the 12th to the 14th century, a prosperous era known for its exquisite jewelry-making craftsmanship. And here's something fascinating. The village of Pembarthi has long been surrounded by rumors of an ancient buried treasure. In fact, over the years, several groups had secretly dug in the area hoping to find hidden riches, but all attempts failed. Perhaps the treasure simply chose to reveal itself when the time was right, and the landowner this time had no idea that building a house would uncover an entire forgotten legacy. The discovery also drew special attention from Indian authorities. Archaeologists believe that if systematic excavations continue across other plots in the village, many more valuable artifacts may still be lying silently underground. It's even possible that the entire Pembarthi region once served as a safe hiding place for royal or noble possessions during times of war or turmoil in the Kakatiya period. Just imagine this. Less than a meter underground, an 800-year-old treasure sat there, patiently waiting to see the light of day. It must feel like opening a door through time, touching a piece of history that has yet to be fully told. Amazing, isn't it? Have you ever stumbled upon a treasure under such unexpected circumstances? Comment below and let me and everyone else know whether you might just be the luckiest person out there. 119 human remains in an ancient Aztec skull tower leave scientists baffled. If you ever set foot among the ruins of the Aztec Empire in the heart of Mexico City, you'd probably never imagine that beneath that calm layer of soil lies a chilling story, one so disturbing that it sent shivers through the entire archaeological community. And now, we're going to follow the traces of one of the most shocking discoveries in recent years, the Skull Tower, an ancient structure that once struck terror into countless generations and today continues to astonish experts with new mysteries uncovered after centuries hidden underground. It all began when archaeologists started excavating an area belonging to an ancient Aztec sacrificial temple. They expected to find familiar artifacts, pottery, tools, architectural remnants. But as each layer of soil was removed, something appeared that left everyone frozen in place. The remains of 119 people arranged as part of a towering structure made of skulls. Even more astonishing was its location, right in the center of ancient Tenochtitlan, the powerful capital and beating heart of the Aztec Empire. But the shock didn't end there. When the team examined the skulls more closely, they discovered something that contradicted everything previously recorded. Many of the skulls belonged to women and children. This left the experts truly puzzled, because for decades, historians believed the heads used to construct Huitzilopochtli, the massive skull rack, came mainly from young warriors or prisoners captured in battle. Archaeologist Barrera Rodriguez even admitted that it was extremely difficult to determine how many of them had been warriors, but the presence of women and children was definitely not something earlier theories ever accounted for. Anthropologist Rodrigo Bolanos confirmed that this was the first time such a discovery had ever been made in relation to Huitzilopochtli, something he said has never been recorded in any ancient document. Now think about it. Why would women and children appear in a structure long believed to symbolize Aztec military power? Could it be that their sacrificial rituals were far more terrifying and complex than we once imagined? Is it possible they chose victims regardless of gender or age to satisfy gods who demanded blood and absolute devotion? Mexico's Minister of Culture, Alejandra Frausto, expressed her astonishment as well, stating that each step of the Templo Mayor excavation reveals stories never before known. According to her, Huitzilopochtli is one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries in recent years, and this skull tower has certainly proven why. The Mexican government considers this one of the country's most significant findings in a long time, not only because of its scale, but also because of the unsettling questions it raises. Questions that make Aztec history, already steeped in mystery and intensity, even more unpredictable and enigmatic. So what do you think? Were these skulls truly from victims sacrificed to the gods? Or is there another secret the Aztecs buried with time? Share your thoughts, because this story still has many layers waiting to be revealed. An 800-year-old mummy bound by hands reveals a strange burial ritual in ancient Peru. In the sun-baked lands of Peru, where ancient sites lie quietly beneath layers of time, archaeologists have uncovered a secret that is both fascinating and spine-chilling. In the coastal region of central Peru, not far from the capital, Lima, a mummy approximately 800 years old was discovered, carrying unusual traces of the daily life and beliefs of ancient people. This find is not only significant for scientists, but also offers a unique window into the history of this culturally rich region. What draws the most attention is the position of the mummy. Unlike typical burials where the body is laid straight, this ancient individual had been tightly bound with ropes, and the hands were placed directly over the face. This arrangement was clearly intentional. According to archaeologist Peter van Dalen Luna from San Marcos State University, this may represent a distinctive burial ritual practiced by coastal and mountain communities of the ancient Andes. Although the gender of the mummy has not been determined, the way the body was preserved suggests that the ancient people had a highly sophisticated belief system with rules and customs that modern science is still striving to understand. But the story doesn't end with the body itself. The entire burial site revealed even more intriguing details. Alongside the mummy, archaeologists found ancient pottery, stone tools, and plant fossils. These items were not simply grave goods. They serve as pieces of a puzzle, showing that this culture once thrived, rich in traditions and identity. Examining each artifact, one can imagine the life of Andean people, whose unique civilization emerged from a landscape of towering mountains and a distinct climate. To determine the mummy's age, experts used radiocarbon dating, a standard technique in archaeology. The results indicate that the body has been buried for approximately 8 centuries. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. Behind it lies a long story about customs, beliefs, and how ancient people confronted the harsh realities of life in the Andes. Peru is famous worldwide for the awe-inspiring Machu Picchu, standing proudly above the clouds. Yet few know that beneath the soil of this nation lie countless untold secrets. Mummies, artifacts, ancient tombs, all are like scattered chapters of a story, waiting for modern humans to turn the pages. This discovery of a bound mummy reinforces that Peruvian history is not only beautiful but also profound and endlessly fascinating. Perhaps the ropes binding this ancient individual will help us understand a mysterious ritual. Perhaps among the pottery shards and plant remains lying side by side, there are clues to how these people viewed life and death. The more we explore, the more we realize that history is never distant. It lies right beneath our feet, waiting to be awakened. A secret tunnel, leading 1,000 miles beneath the Earth. If we say that the Earth still holds countless secrets yet to be uncovered, the story of a geological tunnel beneath Panama may be the clearest evidence. When we hear the word tunnel, we usually think of structures built by humans. But this discovery by scientists goes far beyond imagination. It is a massive fissure deep beneath the planet's crust, stretching from about 62 miles below the surface all the way down to 1,000 miles, reaching the deepest layers of the mantle. Just imagine a hidden passage piercing straight into the innards of the Earth. Without seeing it firsthand, it's hard to believe it's real. But even more remarkable is that this underground doorway isn't passive. It functions like a highway, transporting material from beneath the Galapagos region, moving it across a colossal distance and surfacing beneath Panama. This strange flow of material has puzzled scientists. Why would such deep earth material appear in Panama, a region not known for volcanic activity? According to Science Alert, this represents a completely new mechanism of material circulation, previously undocumented in any geological study. Surprisingly, it also explains a long-standing paradox. Panama has almost no volcanoes, while nearby on Central America's west coast, tectonic plates collide intensely, forming the Central American volcanic arc. Previously, we understood that the Cocos Plate is slowly subducting beneath the North American Plate, dragging the oceanic crust down into the Earth and forming a subduction zone, where fire, molten rock, and pressure create towering volcanic chains. Yet Panama seems to stand apart from this pattern, like a misplaced piece of the puzzle. The newly discovered geological tunnel provides the key explanation. Geochemist David Beckert from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution describes this tunnel as a sudden window in the Earth, where deep mantle material can rise without being blocked by the overlying crust. Furthermore, when researchers analyzed rocks in western Panama and areas beyond Costa Rica's volcanic range, they found minerals that did not belong to the local mantle. Instead, their composition matched mantle material from beneath the Galapagos, thousands of kilometers away and at extreme depths. It gets even more fascinating. Modeling shows that beneath Panama, a portion of the Cocos Plate is buried but does not dissolve into the mantle as expected. Instead, it bends, cracks, and forms a narrow fissure, a natural tunnel. Through this accidental gap, deep earth material can slip through, reaching Panama and leaving traces that scientists are only now beginning to piece together. According to Live Science, this fissure might be an ancient fault that existed long ago, or it could have formed from extreme compression, stretching, and bending as the Cocos Plate subducted. But why does deep material choose this specific pathway? What forces propel it upward? Is it the mantle's heat, massive convection currents, or some other geological mechanism humanity has yet to discover? All these questions remain unsolved mysteries, waiting for future research to provide answers. A family of 8 mummies, preserved for 500 years, under Greenland's ice. In the harsh, icy wilderness of Greenland, where the wind cuts like a knife and snow blankets the land year-round, a secret lay buried for centuries. Then, in 1972, 2 hunters, Hans and Joachim Grunwald, accidentally became the key to unlocking that mystery when they discovered a shallow cave beneath a rocky outcrop in the abandoned region of Kilakitsak. Inside, they were met with a sight that would leave anyone speechless. 8 remarkably preserved mummies of an Inuit family, almost perfectly intact thanks to the region's frigid climate. The family consisted of 3 adult women, 3 young girls, and 2 boys, one around 6 months old and the other 4 years old. Notably, all 6 females bore tattoos on their foreheads and chins, indicating their social status and spiritual roles within the ancient Inuit community. Though they had been laid to rest since 1475 CE, their skin, hair, eyebrows, and even fingernails remained visible, as if time had forgotten them. Each body was carefully wrapped in fur clothing, both for warmth and spiritual significance. When researchers examined the cave, they found the bodies arranged in a clear order. The 6-month-old boy lay nestled inside his mother's fur clothing, only his tiny face, hands, and a few strands of dark brown hair visible, a detail that evoked both awe and sorrow. In ancient Inuit culture, if a mother died, her young child would be buried with her, regardless of whether the child was alive. They believed this was the only way for both to be reunited and live peacefully in the afterlife. The community also understood that a child who lost its mother would inevitably die from hunger and cold, a harsh reality in the icy terrain. The 3 older women in the family were estimated to be around 50 years old, likely dying from illnesses such as kidney stones, chronic constipation, or general weakness. The 3 daughters ranged from 18 to 30 years old. The 4-year-old boy showed signs of Down syndrome, which may have been why he was ritually buried alive, according to customs of that time. The stories behind each body reveal how severe life was for the ancient Inuit, closely tied to strict cultural practices. The family was also buried with 78 items made of animal hide, mostly from seals and reindeer. The large quantity of clothing and gear reflected their social status and helped preserve the mummies in the extreme cold. That same frigid climate unintentionally served as a natural embalmer, keeping their bodies intact for nearly half a millennium. Today, 4 of the 8 mummies are displayed at the National Museum of Greenland in Nuuk. So, if you ever visit this remote land, make sure to stop by and see these ancient faces for yourself. Each mummy is not just a relic of the past, it's a vivid story of the life, culture, and survival resilience of ancestors in Greenland's harsh Arctic environment. An 8-million-year-old ancient forest in Hungary. Did you know that in the heart of Bukobrani, northeastern Hungary, there's an ancient forest you can only reach by going nearly 200 feet underground? If that sounds unbelievable, let me take you back to 2007, when after just a few days of excavation, archaeologists uncovered a discovery that stunned the scientific world. 16 preserved swamp cypress trunks, maintaining their original shape and wood composition from when they grew 8 million years ago. Exciting enough, right? But the story behind them is even more fascinating. You may know that in swampy environments, buried trees often turn into coal over time. But what was found in Bukobrani was completely different. These tree trunks, buried deep underground, were not only intact, they were almost perfectly preserved. To see them, you have to enter a mine covering about 37,700 square feet, where time seems to stand still, revealing cypress trees with diameters of 6 to 10 feet and preserved heights of about 20 feet. In life, these trees could reach 100 to 130 feet tall, a vivid testament to the grandeur of nature during the Miocene epoch. The Miocene, which began over 10 million years ago, was a period when the Bukobrani area was covered by the massive Pannonian Lake, along with swamps and heavy mud. The ancient cypress forest grew in a wet, water-rich environment where every small natural change left a trace in the tree's life cycles. So, what allowed these trees to survive millions of years while remaining so well preserved? The answer lies in a sudden natural event. A massive sandstorm buried the forest under 20 feet of sand, protecting the roots from sunlight and air, the 2 main enemies that normally cause wood to decay. While the parts above ground eventually disappeared over time, the buried trunks were preserved so perfectly that touching them still feels like fresh wood. However, not everything is perfect. The cypress trunks are now hardening due to the loss of cellulose, the natural glue that holds plant cells together. Preserving and studying them is therefore an extremely delicate process. Scientists have analyzed their age and tree rings, reconstructing a climate record of the region spanning thousands of years. Remarkably, each cypress was 300 to 400 years old when it died, and they didn't all grow at the same time. This allows researchers to track climate changes over a 1,000 to 1,500 year period, inferring how the environment transformed from the life cycles of individual trees. Imagine this: massive trees sleeping underground for 8 million years, finally discovered, each tree ring a page of an ancient diary recording rain, sun, storms, and life. Stepping into the Buccabrani mine is like touching the imprint of time itself, hearing whispers of nature from millions of years ago. Who would have thought that modern-day Hungary hides a living museum of nature where time has paused to protect these miraculous cypress trees? It's an adventure that combines exploration, learning, and awe, experiencing the grandeur of nature that existed long before humans walked the earth. Just thinking about it makes your heart race, doesn't it? A 3,800-year-old skeleton reveals the lost story of ancient Peru. In August 2024, near a valley in Viru province, La Libertad, Peru, archaeologists unearthed 4 ancient skeletons, dating from 3,100 to 3,800 years ago. This discovery is like opening a wide time portal, taking us back to an era when mysterious cultures once thrived on the legendary land of Peru. The excavation site lies near a valley in Viru province, an area long known for traces of numerous ancient civilizations. Finding these tombs raises the question: who lived here, worshipped deities, and performed rituals thousands of years ago? Experts suggest that the site may have been an ancient temple where locals honored the gods of a culture that eventually disappeared with time. The 4 skeletons were discovered alongside elaborate funerary objects, all buried within a large tomb. This indicates that the ancient people placed great importance on ritual, with every detail of the burial process carrying profound spiritual significance. In fact, archaeologist Ferran Castillo from the National University of Trujillo noted that this discovery marks an important milestone, offering a chance to better understand the cultural development of the region thousands of years ago. He also believes that many tombs in the surrounding area remain unexcavated, suggesting that this site was once a highly significant religious and social center. Interestingly, the proximity of the burials to religious structures shows that the ancient people held deep beliefs in sanctity, similar to how many today wish to be buried near churches, hoping for protection in the afterlife. Even after millennia, human beliefs about life and death retain surprisingly similar patterns. Every layer of soil turned in Peru tells an untold story, helping piece together the historical puzzle of the glorious civilizations that once existed here, from the Inca, Moche, Nazca, to Wari. Archaeology not only allows us to understand the past, but also illuminates the development of religion, art, technology, and the ancient worldview. These recently uncovered skeletons serve as vivid evidence of the creativity and profound faith of Peru's ancestors. They remind us that every artifact, whether a shard of pottery or an ancient skeleton, carries timeless value. Each piece helps us understand the social structures, customs, and beliefs that shaped human history. So, whenever Peru unveils a new secret, we take one step closer to decoding the mysterious past of humanity. Discoveries like this excite not only scientists, but also explorers and enthusiasts, sparking awe and fascination in all of us. The Tomb of a Maya Queen and the chilling story of sacrifice in the Guatemalan jungle. In a dramatic excavation deep in the dense jungles of Guatemala, where ancient tree canopies block out the sunlight, archaeologists uncovered a completely buried pyramid, and inside lay the intact skeleton of a powerful woman. Detailed analysis revealed that she was a Maya queen, a figure who once held supreme authority in the flourishing empire of ancient Central America. What shocked archaeologists even more was that next to the queen's skeleton, they discovered the body of a child. But this was no coincidence. Evidence on the skeleton shows that the child had been sacrificed and buried alongside the queen in a deep pit as part of a haunting funerary ritual practiced by the Maya. This grim detail not only reflects the strict religious ceremonies of the time, but also highlights the enormous power wielded by the Maya royal family during their peak. The tomb has been identified in Holmol, a site renowned for countless remnants of the Maya civilization, which thrived for nearly 3,000 years. This was the cradle of one of the most brilliant civilizations in the Americas, reaching its zenith between 250 and 900 AD. The Maya built massive cities in the jungle while developing advanced mathematics and astronomy. At a time when much of the world still lived in primitive tribal societies, the Maya constructed monumental architecture using sophisticated engineering and maintained an extremely complex social organization. Even more fascinating is that the Holmol discovery was not just the result of traditional excavation. Using LiDAR technology, a modern laser scanning system, archaeologists were able to see through the dense foliage and uncover 3 previously unknown pyramids simultaneously. One of these pyramids housed the queen's remains, and according to Dr. Francisco Estrada Belli from Tulane University, it is possible that beneath the pyramid's base lies the tomb of her husband, a powerful Maya king. The other 2 pyramids are believed to be the resting places of at least 5 kings and other royal family members, and possibly even those sacrificed alongside them. Looking at the broader picture, this discovery is like opening a door into the spiritual and political world of the Maya royal family. The sacrificial rituals, the connections between the gods and royalty, and the absolute reverence for kings and queens are all vividly recorded in the newly unearthed bones and artifacts. Thus, it is no exaggeration to say that this discovery gives us a deeper understanding of Maya customs, religious beliefs, and the mechanisms of power in this mysterious civilization. Amid the rustling winds of the ancient forest, the story of the Maya queen and the hidden pyramids continues to unfold, leaving every explorer shivering with excitement and curiosity about the secrets that may still lie ahead. The 9,000-year-old tomb of a female hunter in the Andes. Nearly 9,000 years ago, on the towering slopes of the Andes Mountains, a young woman hunted large animals using spears and stone-tipped projectiles. Surprising, isn't it? This discovery shook the academic world's understanding of hunter-gatherer societies when researchers uncovered the tomb of a female hunter, complete with an array of specialized weapons and tools. The tomb was discovered in 2018 at the Willamaya Pachsa site, located at a significant altitude in what is now Peru. Careful analysis revealed that the individual was a young woman aged 17 to 19 at the time of her death. She was buried with tools used for hunting large animals, including throwing spears, stone-tipped lances for taking down prey, stone knives for butchering, and tools for skinning. These artifacts show that she was not only skilled in hunting, but also knowledgeable in processing her kills, a task far from simple in an ancient hunter-gatherer society. Previously, archaeologists generally assumed that men hunted while women gathered fruits, seeds, and plants. However, the Willamaya Pachsa discovery challenges this assumption. The fact that a young woman participated in hunting large animals demonstrates that women played active, significant roles in hunter-gatherer societies, rather than being passive or limited to gathering tasks. To support this finding, the research team analyzed 429 skeletons from 107 cemeteries across North and South America, dating from the late Pleistocene to the early Holocene, roughly 8,000 to 14,000 years ago. The results were fascinating. Among 27 individuals buried with hunting tools, 11 were female and 15 were male. This clearly shows that women were not exceptions. They actively participated in hunting, at least in groups where cooperation was required to take down large game. Many might wonder, why did hunting require multiple people? The answer lies in the limitations of ancient weapons. Spears and lances lacked precision, so driving and killing large animals could not be accomplished by 1 or 2 individuals alone. Hunting was a community activity where every member, male or female, played a critical role in ensuring success. The Willamaya Pachsa tomb opens a window not only into the life of a female hunter 9,000 years ago, but also into the evolution of labor division. It shows that ancient hunter-gatherer societies were not simply men hunted, women gathered. They were flexible communities, where the skills and contributions of each individual were valued. Researchers emphasize that analyzing additional cemeteries will help us better understand how gender roles evolved over time in hunter-gatherer societies. And if you imagine the vast slopes of the Andes, countless untold stories remain about the people who lived, hunted, and helped shape human society as we know it today. The 3 giant stone pillars that have guarded Yorkshire for thousands of years. Did you know that right in the middle of the peaceful fields of Yorkshire, England, there stand 3 towering stone pillars defying time and human hands for thousands of years? People call them the Devil's Arrows, a name both eerie and intriguing, sparking curiosity in anyone who hears it. These three stone pillars measure 22.3 feet, 22 feet, and 18 feet tall, respectively, and have stood proudly for over 3,200 years, dating back to the Neolithic or Bronze Age. They are considered the tallest standing stone graves in all of England. The story of the Devil's Arrows is not just archaeological, it's steeped in folklore and legend. In the 17th century, villagers in Aldborough told of a resident who accidentally angered the devil. Instead of punishing him immediately, the devil angrily uprooted these enormous stones and hurled them like arrows at the village. Fortunately, an angel appeared and deflected the arrows, causing them to land in the surrounding area, leaving the three pillars we see today. Spooky as it sounds, you have to admit these tales make the place irresistibly mysterious. Years later, in 1709, the Yorkshire authorities decided to excavate the pillars to understand them better. They discovered that each stone was carefully positioned, reinforced with rocks, pebbles, and compacted clay, showing that the ancients had shaped and polished each pillar before setting and securing it with meticulous care. This reveals the astonishing craftsmanship and patience of prehistoric people, who created a monument both grand and enigmatic. But you might wonder, what was the real purpose of these stone pillars? To this day, archaeologists have not found a definitive answer. Two prominent hypotheses exist. First, they could have been Roman victory monuments, commemorating a significant historical event. Second, they might have served as lunar observation towers for ancient rituals and religious ceremonies. Whatever the case, the mystery remains unsolved, which makes the Devil's Arrows even more captivating. These three stone pillars are not merely giant rocks. They are living witnesses of culture, belief, and mystical stories from thousands of years ago. The local church once considered them the gates of Satan, while villagers still believe they are connected to ancient rituals. Standing before them, you can sense the breath of history, the mystery of nature, and the brilliance of those who built them. It's fascinating to think that, despite the passage of time, rain, wind, and human activity, these pillars remain standing, defying explanation and continuing to tell their own story. They are not just archaeological relics, they are proof that some mysteries are never forgotten, patiently waiting for curious minds like ours to discover them. Just imagine standing among these towering stone pillars, listening to the stories of the ancients, a feeling both thrilling and spine-chilling. That is the enduring allure of the Devil's Arrows, where history, legend, and nature converge, leaving an unforgettable impression on anyone daring enough to approach. Truly fascinating, isn't it? If you've been following along this far, you've probably felt just how vast and mysterious the world around us truly is. Every discovery unearthed by archaeologists is not just an artifact, it's also a reminder that history still holds countless pages waiting to be turned. If you want to continue exploring even stranger secrets with me, be sure to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I'll see you in the upcoming adventures full of surprises.